Hello everyone, welcome to What If Deku Had the Quirk of Shadow Demon and Was Neglected by Everyone movie. Before we start, please go support cismomusic for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Deku is a male. This is the sad story of Izuku Midoriya, who at such a young age was abandoned by the only person he loved. Chapter 1. Izuku, you've heard that stories always end in happy endings. The truth is that it's nice, but at the same time it's bad. You'll ask me, why is it bad, right? I'll tell you it's bad because when you get to know the real world, you realize that happy endings don't exist, that they are just fictitious endings. In life you suffer, you cry, sometimes you lose, sometimes you win, sometimes you live a beautiful life with your family and friends, but sometimes life seems to hate you. Since I was little, I had to learn all that, and not in a normal or beautiful way, so to speak. If I were to make a wish, I would simply wish I had never been born, that's all, or at least that you put yourself in my place so you can see how I feel every day. Anyway, let me tell you about my life before. Well, let's start from the beginning. My name is Izuku Kamadu and I am currently 15 years old, and today I am in front of the place where the entrance exams for the prestigious hero academy called UE will be held. Izuku, wow, this place is really big. Well, it's time to go in. The freckled boy would enter. He would walk slowly, undoubtedly attracting everyone's attention. Izuku would say in a low voice, "I see it's the same as always." He would look up and see that an orange-haired girl had tripped. Izuku would hold her, preventing her from falling. The orange-haired girl would turn around to see who had helped her. She would see the freckled boy, but when she saw his eyes, the words would not come out. It was as if her body had paralyzed. Izuku would just look down and say, "It would be bad luck if you fell on this day." After saying that, Izuku would continue on his way. The girl would say, "Why couldn't I move?" His presence scared me. As Izuku walked, everyone moved away from him in fear. Izuku noticed this and would say, "I don't know why it hurts. I'm supposed to be used to it." Flashback. We can see a little Izuku who had tears in his eyes, watching his father Izuku Midoriya hit his mother. The little boy was only 5 years old, and his quirk had not manifested. The little boy couldn't take it anymore and went to help his mother. Izuku would stand in front of his mother so that his father wouldn't hit him anymore. "Izuku, get away, Izuku, or I'll hit you just like I hit her." "Izuku, please daddy, don't hit mom anymore." Izuku was drunk, and when he drank he lost control. He would hit little Izuku in the face. The freckled boy would have fallen away from his mother. Inko would slap Izuku. "Inko, how dare you hit our little son?" Izuku would put both of his hands on Inko's neck, and he would squeeze quite hard. "Izuku, how dare you raise your hand to me, you bucking hitch?" Inko struggled to free herself from the grip, but she was slowly losing her breath. Little Izuku had a split lip from the blow his father had given him. Blood was falling from the freckled boy's mouth. Izuku would see how his father hung his mother, and that Izuku's shadow would begin to take another form. The freckled boy's eyes had changed to a crimson-red color. Izuku's shadow was reflected on the walls of the house. The shadow had taken the form of a demon. Izuku would see this and would be scared, so much so that he would let go of Inko, who would fall to the ground breathing heavily. Izuku would see the freckled boy's eyes, and out of nowhere he would start screaming in fear. The freckled man's shadow would grab Izuku by both legs, dragging him towards Izuku. As Izuku was being dragged, his nails dug into the ground. Izuku would be in front of Izuku. Izuku would take Izuku's hand, who was shaking with fear. Inko couldn't react from fear, because that was no longer her son, he was a demon. Izuku without much effort would break his father's wrist. Izuku screamed in pain. Izuku would bring his index finger to his lips, saying, "Be quiet, I told you not to hit mom, but you didn't listen." The freckled man would break Izuku's other hand. Screams of pain were heard in the Midoriya house. Izuku's shadow would grab Izuku by the neck. Note: the shadow came out of Izuku's body as well as Tokoemi's dark shadow. End of note. He struggled to free himself, but the shadow tightened his grip. Izuku's crimson eyes shining brightly. At that, Izuku would start screaming as if he was being tortured. Izuku would release Hisashi, who would run out of the house as best he could. The shadow of the freckled boy had returned to normal. Just like his eyes, Izuku would approach his mother saying, "Are you okay, Mom?" Inko would just walk away from Izuku saying, "No, don't come near me, you monster." Izuku with a sad look would say, "Don't call me that, Mom." Inko was afraid of her own son because of what she had seen. "Izuku, Mom, it's me, Izuku." The freckled boy would only give his mother a hug, but Inko would not reciprocate out of fear. Inko would try to formulate a small phrase. "Inko, Izuku, why don't we go to the doctor so he can tell us what kind of quirk you have?" Izuku would wipe the blood from his mouth. To Inko's surprise, Izuku no longer had a split lip. "Izuku, I'll go change my clothes, let's go, Mom." The freckled one would have a big smile. Inko would just watch as Izuku went to her room. Inko couldn't stop shaking with fear. She was also going to get changed to take her son to the doctor. About 20 minutes passed, and they had arrived at the clinic. We can see little Izuku, who was sitting outside the office. He would be waiting for his mother, who had stayed inside talking to the doctor. "Doctor, Mrs. Midoriya, your son has a quirk that we call demonic manifestation, or demon in other words. He has to be careful, he has a dangerous and unusual quirk." The doctor was shaking a little. "Doctor, when I saw your son, I'm not going to lie to you, I was a little scared." "Inko, what should I do, doctor? I saw what he can do and I'm scared of him." "Doctor, I'm sorry, Mrs. Midoriya, but I can't help you with that. I'm just telling you to be careful." Inko was even more afraid when she heard those words. She would leave the office a little nervous because she knew she had to see her son again. "Izuku, Mom, what did the doctor tell you? What's my quirk?" Little Izuku had a big smile on his face. "Inko, come on, let's go on the way, I'll tell you." Izuku would take his mother's hand. This action gave his mother a chill. On the way, he had told her what the doctor had told him, obviously omitting several parts. When he got home, little Izuku was very happy, because he already had a quirk. The hours had passed, and it was already night. The freckled boy would have gone to rest after dinner. He noticed how his mother had changed her way of being with him. He noticed that she was afraid of him. The freckled boy only thought it was his imagination. But Izuku was happy because now his father would never hit his mother again. The freckled boy undoubtedly loved his mother more than anyone else. Izuku would be in his room, in which there were several things from All Might, because the freckled boy admired his hero a lot and wanted to be like him. Izuku didn't care what quirk he had. As long as he had one, he would fight to be like All Might. The freckled boy closed his eyes and fell asleep very happy. On the other hand, Inko would be lying on her bed thinking about what the doctor had told her, and remembering over and over again what Izuku had done. "Inko, what should I do? I'm afraid of my own son." The day had passed. It was a Saturday afternoon. Izuku and his mother would be in a car heading to a field to have a picnic. Izuku was happy. They had arrived. An hour had passed. Izuku was playing with his All Might action toys. Then they had eaten a little. Little Izuku had fallen asleep on his mother's lap. Inko just looked at her son saying, "I'm sorry, Izuku, I can't see you as a son since that day." The mother would slowly get up, leaving her little one in the field. Inko would get into her car and leave the place, leaving little Izuku alone. Well, she had abandoned him to her own fate. The hours had passed, and it was already night. Little Izuku had woken up. Not seeing his mother would scare him a little. Izuku would start walking, shouting his mother's name. The whole place was dark due to the darkness of the night. To the side of the field where Izuku was, there was a long road, which was accompanied by a beautiful tree-lined path. Izuku would sit on the side of the road with his All Might figure in hand. "Izuku, maybe Mom went to buy something. I know she'll come back." The hours passed and passed. Inko did not return. Izuku had his head down, somewhat sad, and also being hungry. The freckled boy fell asleep on the side of the road waiting for his mother, who never came back. The next day Izuku would wait for his mother again in the same place without moving. After a few hours he had passed, the freckled boy would start walking down the road. After an hour of walking, Izuku had finally arrived back in the city. The freckled man tried to call for help, but for some strange reason people became scared when they saw him and ran away. Izuku was so hungry, he couldn't go back home because he didn't know the city. The freckled boy wandered around the streets a bit, until he came to the side of a food place, where he saw one of the place's cooks throwing food into the trash. The freckled man waited until the man left to eat the food he had voted for, since he had no other choice. He had no money and people were scared when they saw him. When night came, Izuku had stayed in the same alley. Next to the garbage container there was a large empty box. The freckled boy fit perfectly in it, so Izuku had gotten inside it to spend the night there. So the days had passed. Little Izuku survived by eating food that the locals threw in the trash, and sleeping inside a box. Every afternoon Izuku grabbed his box and walked to the field where he had gone with his mother, because he sat every afternoon waiting for her. Sometimes he slept in that place. The freckled boy hoped that his mother would come back for him. Little Izuku had a pendant around his neck that had a picture of him and his mother together. Izuku always slept with that pendant in his hand. Little Izuku's clothes were dirty. 2 weeks had passed. Izuku sometimes did not eat, because they did not always throw food in the trash. Sometimes he had to eat stale bread. At only 5 years old, Izuku had to go through those things. One day while Izuku was waiting in the same place for his mother, his quirk had activated again. The freckled boy's shadow could move and change shape. As the days went by, the freckled boy had begun to understand his quirk better. Sometimes he talked to his shadow and he answered him. One day when Izuku was looking for something to eat in the garbage, an elderly man approached him and spoke to him. Izuku thought it was strange when he saw the man approaching him. "Sir, little one, what are you doing there?" Izuku, same as always, looking for something to eat. Izuku had a big smile on his face. Upon hearing those words, the man was overcome with great sadness. Seeing a little boy all neglected searching for food in the garbage was a sad sight. "Sir, boy, do you have parents?" Izuku, "I have my mom." "Sir, and where is she?" Izuku would tell him his story. "Izuku, it's almost time for me to go to that place. Maybe she'll come back for me." The man, upon hearing Izuku's story, couldn't help but shed tears, because he understood that he had been abandoned. But he realized that Izuku didn't think that. Hearing that he went to wait for her in the same place every day tore at his soul. A child so innocent that he didn't understand what was happening. "Izuku, sir, aren't you afraid of me?" "Sir, why should I be afraid of you?" "Izuku, well, usually when people see me they get scared and stay away from me." He said this with a sad voice. The man would say, "My name is Harukamadu, nice to meet you, little one." Izuku would bow saying, "Nice to meet you, my name is Izuku Midoriya, nice to meet you." The man just looked at the little boy because he had very good manners. Izuku would take the box he always slept in and said, "Well, see you later, sir, I have to go see if mom has returned." "Sir, excuse me, Izuku, what is that box you have there for?" Izuku, "Well, this is where I sleep every day." The man with a sad look said, "Do you sleep in that box?" Izuku with a smile said, "Of course, even if you don't believe it, it is very comfortable." The man would ask, "Can I accompany you?" "Izuku, are you sure? It's too far to walk." The man would just nod. "Izuku, then let's go." Little Izuku would start walking until he reached his usual place, and there, together with the man, they waited for Inko. "Sir, and you always come here alone?" "Izuku, if I do this every day, I know my mother will come back for me one day." The night had come and they were both still waiting. "Sir, Izuku, don't you want to come with me to sleep at my house?" "Izuku, no thanks, I don't want to be a bother to you." "Sir, you are not a bother, I promise that tomorrow I will help you look for your mother." "Izuku, hey, would you really help me find my mother?" The freckled boy's eyes shone with excitement. The man was just happy to see the boy so happy, he would say. "Of course, even though I can't move much because of my age, I promise we'll look for her." "Izuku, then thank you very much," so they both started walking together. End of flashback. Izuku would be taken out of his thoughts, hearing present mixed voice which would say, "And those are the points each robot is worth." Izuku, damn, I missed the explanation. Izuku was sitting alone as the rest were away from him. The freckled boy sometimes got lost remembering parts of his past. Present Mike, now go to the field where you will take the test. All the candidates began to leave in an orderly manner. As the minutes passed, Izuku was in front of a large door. Along with the rest of the applicants, Izuku would close his eyes saying, "I will make you proud of my dad." At that the great door would open and Izuku would pass the rest at great speed. Everyone looked at the freckled boy in astonishment. Present Mike, why aren't they moving forward? They're waiting for some kind of signal. At that everyone reacted and entered the fake city. Chapter 2. Upon entering, his astonishment was noticeable since there were several robots destroyed. Not even 2 minutes had passed and Izuku had practically traveled the entire city. In a room there were several teachers observing the future applicants. Nizu looked at Izuku in detail. All Might would be in his muscular form. Note: here Izuku would never have met All Might. End of note. The cameras that focused on Izuku failed or were frozen. We can see an orange-haired girl who was in an area away from the rest. She would be destroying several robots. The girl would say, "I already have 70 points." As the minutes passed, some already had the necessary points, others were fighting to get points. Everyone was aware that only a few would enter. Izuku would be resting in an alley. "Izuku, I guess this will be enough." "Nizu, let's see how young people act under pressure." He would press a button, and when he did so, the robot with 0 points would appear in the city. This one was bigger than the buildings themselves, and all the candidates ran away from it. Since being worth 0 points it wasn't that important, but its size was impressive. The orange-haired girl would be just a few meters away from the 0-point robot. She would start to run, but if she stepped wrong she would twist her ankle. She would try to stand up but it hurt too much. The boys around would have seen this, but none of them wanted to risk their lives to help her. Kendo would just close his eyes waiting for the worst. Izuku was still in his alley. The robot would pass right by. The freckled man would have seen the girl. Izuku would quietly say, "They saw her and didn't want to risk helping her, they just abandoned her." Izuku would remember the words his father had told him. "Izuku, no matter how others treat you, or if they tell you that you are a monster, no one knows you better than yourself. You want to be a hero, so always help those who need it. Don't be afraid to use your quirk. I know that one day you will become the best hero of all, and I will feel very proud of you, but I am already proud of you, my boy." "Izuku, in the end you left without being able to see me being a hero, Dad." Izuku's shadow would emerge from his body. The freckled boy's eyes turned crimson. The robot would be centimeters away from crushing the girl. At that point it would stop. Izuku's shadow would cover the entire robot. Izuku would begin to move his hands, and as if it were a simple can, the robot began to dent. Izuku moved his fingers and the shadow tore the robot apart with great ease, dropping the remains to the ground, raising a large curtain of dust. At that, Izuku's shadow would quickly land on the girl's ankle and cover it completely. When the shadow retreated, the girl's ankle was already fine. All this would have happened very quickly. The orange-haired girl still had her eyes closed. Izuku would leave the place. When the curtain disappeared, the pieces of the robot could be seen. Everyone would wonder what had happened. No one had seen anything anymore. For Izuku, everything had happened in slow motion. The girl would open her eyes, seeing in astonishment how the robot was destroyed. She would see her ankle and would no longer feel pain or anything like that. She looked everywhere, managing to see a green-haired man who was lost in an alley. At that point, President Mick's voice could be heard throughout the city, saying, "Time is up. Please, those who have injuries go to the heroin recovery girl to heal them. In a few days the results of the examination will be sent to your respective addresses." Nizu would only have a smile on his face. All the teachers were wondering what had happened. Since the cameras had started to fail the moment the robot was destroyed, Nizu knew that he had turned his attention to Izuku. The green-haired boy would be leaving the fake city, not realizing that an orange-haired girl was looking for him. Izuku would now be walking through the streets. As normal people avoided him, while the freckled boy was walking he remembered parts of his past. Flashback. After arriving at the man's house, he had prepared dinner for him. Little Izuku thanked him for the food. The man just looked at the little boy while he tied the house was a humble one. The next day, together with little Izuku, they went out into the city to look for Inko. They did it every day, but they got no results. It was like if she had left the city. Little Izuku sometimes got sad. The man told him that they would find her trying to cheer the little one up. In this way the days passed. The man had become very fond of Izuku. He had bought him clothes and such things. Every afternoon they would go to where Izuku was abandoned to wait for Inko. The man knew that she would not go, but he accompanied Izuku, since the little boy had hope. So he didn't want to break little Izuku's illusion. It didn't matter if it was cold or not, they always went. 3 years had passed. Little Izuku was already 8 years old. The man had adopted him. Izuku had begun to call him Dad. This made the man very happy. Izuku attended school, where he had no friends. Everyone was afraid of him. They called him a monster among other things. These words hurt the freckled boy. Izuku only talked to his shadow, who was his friend, thanks to his quirk. Every day, Izuku mastered it more and more. Even so, the freckled boy always showed a big smile, and always carried with him the pendant with his mother's photo. When he got home, Izuku helped his dad plant vegetables, because in the back of his house they had a small garden. Izuku was always happy to help him. With the use of his quirk he accelerated the tasks. His father was not afraid of his quirk, on the contrary, he admired him more and more. The years passed. Now Izuku was 13 years old. One day he arrived home from high school. When he entered, the freckled boy's eyes had watered when he saw his father on the floor. Izuku quickly helped him, but his eyes had opened wide when he didn't feel his pulse. Tears fell from Izuku's eyes. Izuku, Dad, please wake up. Don't leave me. A great pain grew in Izuku's chest. The neighbors had heard the freckled man's heartbreaking scream, and they quickly went to see what was happening. Upon arriving, they saw Izuku hugging his father tightly while crying inconsolably. The neighbors had called an ambulance, and after an examination by a forensic doctor it was determined that he had died of cardiac arrest. The next day all the neighbors had collected money and had made a beautiful burial for him, since they all knew the humble man. Although they were afraid of Izuku, he always spoke to them with pride about his little Izuku. The people at the funeral were not many, some acquaintances and neighbors. No one approached the freckled man to comfort him or anything, because they were afraid of him. The freckled man imposed fear with his aura, but this was due to his quirk, for a reason they called it demonic manifestation. Izuku was totally devastated. Now he no longer had anyone by his side and he was left alone. People began to leave the funeral, leaving Izuku alone. The freckled boy would kneel with tears on his cheeks and say, "You promised that you would see me become a hero, but you broke your promise, Dad. How will I live without you now? You were the only one who loved me and my quirk for who we are. You never looked at me with indifference. You always loved me like your own son." The freckled boy's voice slowly began to break. His shadow would emerge from his body and give him a hug. It was the only company Izuku had. In Haru Kamado's will, he left his house to his only son Izuku. End of flashback. Izuku would now be sitting on a bench in a small park. He watched as several people his age walked together. Izuku would quietly say, "How I would like to have friends. I wonder how it feels to be loved. Or have someone who loves you for who you are." Izuku would get up and start walking. At that point he would cross paths with a light blue-haired girl, who was accompanied by 2 boys, and they would have exchanged glances for a second. After that Izuku would continue on, not knowing that this would be the beginning of his story. Chapter 3. At that moment it was as if something had told them that it would not be the first nor the last time they would see each other. For that small instant it was as if time had stopped before their eyes. After that Izuku would continue on, not knowing that this would be the beginning of his story. The freckled boy was just walking away from that park, without realizing that a light blue girl had turned around, while staring at him. "Tamaki, hey NEJIRE, are you okay? Why did you stop like that out of nowhere?" NEJIRE, yes, I'm fine, nothing's wrong. Mirio, then let's keep walking, I'm already very hungry. Besides, Tamaki said he was going to pay for the food. Tamaki, whenever we go out, I always pay. Mirio would just let out a small laugh. Tamaki would just take a deep breath. NEJIRE would only show a small smile. The three friends would continue on their way. When they arrived home, Izuku said, "I'm home now, Dad." Without receiving any response, the freckled man would say, "I would love to hear you one more time, Dad." Izuku would walk through his house, until he came to a shelf where there was a photo of him with his father. Izuku would take it, saying, "You don't know how much I miss you, Dad. You were and always will be the most important thing to me. Wherever you are, I hope you see me become a hero. I will make you proud of me." After saying that, the freckled boy carefully placed the frame with the photo on the shelf, going up the stairs to his room, where he would take a towel and go to the bathroom to take a shower. While the water fell on him, Izuku he remembered what his life had been like after his dad had passed away. "Izuku, thanks for everything you did for my dad." After getting out of the shower, Izuku would get dressed and lie down on a small sofa in the dining room. Izuku in his thoughts would say, "I hope I pass the exams to get in. It'll be a matter of waiting for the results." A week had passed and the long-awaited letter had arrived at Izuku's house. It was a Sunday morning. The green-haired boy was undoubtedly very excited. He couldn't wait to see the results. The intrigue was eating away at him more and more. During the past week, the green-haired man had spent his time training with his quirk, because he knew that he still had a lot to improve. Izuku would take a deep breath, saying, "Calm down, Izuku, it's just a letter." Izuku began to slowly open the envelope, finding a circular-shaped artifact. From this a hologram had emerged showing a rodent with white fur. He was dressed in a white shirt, a red tie and a black vest on top. It was Director Nizu. "Nizu, good morning, young Kamadu. I am the director of the UA Hero Academy. I am contacting you to inform you of the results of your exam. I want to congratulate you on the written exam. You passed with 100 points. Congratulations. As for the practical exam, I would like to give you my most sincere congratulations. You passed the exam with 195 points." The freckled boy's eyes opened wide. "Izuku, but I only had 135 points? Nizu, perhaps you are wondering why you have those many points? Well, the extra 60 points you have are thanks to your action after having rescued Miss Kendo from the 0-point robot. You proved that you had what it took to be a true hero. You decided to save her when no one else wanted to help. That's why you were awarded the 60 rescue points. These points were given by a jury of professionals. In other words, young Kamadu, welcome to the UA. Tomorrow we will wait for you in classes in the morning. Congratulations." After saying that, the message was cut off. Izuku had a couple of tears in his eyes. He had made it inside. The freckled boy quickly went to where his dad's photo was. "Izuku, Dad, I passed the test," he said while trying to hold back his tears. Well, Izuku wanted to become a hero to save people and to make his dad proud, because for the freckled boy, his dad was his greatest hero. If he had to decide between his dad and All Might, he would definitely choose his dad above all else. The next day it was 6 in the morning and we could see the freckled guy, who was doing a couple of pull-ups on the bar. "Izuku, 177, 178, 179 and 180. He said while his neck was all sweaty. On his waist he had a belt with a chain hanging from it. The chain held 3 10-kilo discs. Izuku was exhausted. The freckled boy always got up early to train a little. He liked to do it. Izuku had a well-worked body. His back was well-toned. The freckled boy would take a bath with cold water. While he bathed, he thought about what his first day at UA would be like. Although Izuku didn't show it, he was a little anxious. After getting out of the shower, Izuku put on the uniform requested by the UA, organized his things, had some breakfast, and headed toward his destination. He was going at a slow pace, since there were still 20 minutes left until the entry time. While Izuku walked, he looked at the sky as it slowly turned gray. "Izuku, good thing I brought my umbrella in my backpack. I'm sure it will rain later." The minutes passed and Izuku had arrived at UA. He would be walking through the halls looking for the door to his classroom. All eyes were on Izuku. Izuku just tried to ignore them. "Izuku, room 1A. Ah, I found it." He opened the big door, where he could see several boys and girls. What caught his attention the most was seeing a blue-haired boy, with a pair of glasses arguing with a blonde-haired boy, who had an arrogant attitude. Izuku just sighed and sat next to the window. It didn't go unannounced that everyone was looking at him with some insecurity. Ida wanted to go over and greet him, but it was as if her own legs weren't responding. Maybe she was feeling fear, she asked herself. Although Izuku had a calm look, he emanated an aura of fear, not because he wanted to. All this was because of his quirk. He had to admit his quirk was that of a demon. Hearing that word, who wouldn't be afraid of him? For that reason, Izuku had grown up without friends, being a lonely boy. But that didn't affect him much, since he could talk with his quirk, or with his demon rather. But despite the word itself, he was a good demon. He didn't seek to harm but to help. A couple of minutes had passed and a living room door had opened, revealing an orange-haired girl entering the room. It was Itsuka Kendo who, with the points she had earned, had managed to get into Class A. She would see the green-haired man sitting there, who was looking out the window. She knew that he had saved her from the 0-point robot. She approached him, and everyone just looked at her. Kendo would be in front of Izuku. The green-haired boy had noticed the presence of the orange-haired girl. Izuku would just look at her confused, asking, "How can I help you?" Kendo said as best he could, "Thanks for helping me." The orange-haired girl had her head down. After saying this, she sat behind a pink-haired girl. Izuku just looked at her confused. He would look at the window again, but this time with a slight smile. Several of his companions had arrived in the living room. After a few minutes, the door to the living room would open. Everyone could see how a person who was inside a sleeping bag crawled into the living room. He jumped to his feet, and with a look that detonated a bit of tiredness, he said, "My name is Shoyuta Aisawa, and I will be your homeroom teacher. I know this is sudden, but put on your training suits. I'll meet you in 5 minutes in the backyard of the academy." Everyone looked at this with some confusion, but obeyed their teacher. Within about 5 minutes, the entire class would be in the backyard. Here it would happen like in the original story. Aisawa would explain to them about the tests, and whoever came last would be expelled. The tests passed with relative normality. Izuku was the center of attention since he came first in all of them. This bothered a certain explosive blonde. Well, Izuku's quirk improved his physical abilities, both in strength and endurance. But if he abused his quirk, his body took its toll, leaving him completely without energy and with severe muscle pain. The ball-throwing test had arrived. Aisawa would look at Izuku saying, "Kamadu, since you were the one who got the highest score in the 2 entrance exams, you will be the first to pass." These words surprised everyone, especially a black-haired girl who had entered on recommendation, as well as a certain bicolor girl. Izuku was standing inside the throwing circle. Aisawa just stared at him intently. Chapter 4. Izuku had his eyes closed. The words of his late father would pass through Izuku's mind. "I will always be proud of you, my little Izuku. Show everyone that you will be the greatest hero of all time. If others criticize you or fear you for your demonic quirk, then show them that you are there to save them with your own life. My child, life will always put obstacles in your path. There are people who are born with the fortune of being able to walk a safe path. And there are people who, from a young age, walk along a path full of thorns. Do you know what makes them different? That he who walked through the thorns and continued moving forward despite the pain of his wounds, and when he reached the end of the road, discovered that he had overcome himself and that he was stronger than he believed. So my boy, always improve yourself. He who does not risk does not lose. He who has never stumbled and fallen will never know how to get up again, since his life was used to being perfect. I've always said it, fight for your dream, my boy. No matter where I am, I'll always be by your side, son." Izuku would open his eyes, revealing his crimson-red pupils. Aisawa would notice this and be a little surprised. Izuku would send his right arm back and return it forward. Everyone saw how several black veins were noticeable on Izuku's arm. Izuku would throw the ball with all its strength. A large gust of wind would shake the place, and several would be covered by this. The ground beneath Izuku had cracked quite a bit. Aisawa couldn't believe what she was seeing. Everyone was in shock because beneath Izuku there was a small crater due to the force applied, but everyone's gaze fell on the green-haired man's arm. Since a lot of blood was falling from it, not to mention that it was shaking a little. "Izuku, I will give my best to my dad. I will break my limits." The ball would fall to the ground. Isawa's phone would ring showing the height reached. Isawa would open her eyes wide and in her mind she would say, "This kid is amazing." "Isawa, Kamadu, you did 1,100 meters." Everyone was speechless. Izuku would raise his right arm, letting see how the blood returned to his wounds, which closed. In a few seconds his arm was as good as new. Isawa and the others were speechless. Behind a campus building, a muscular blonde had seen the whole scene and was surprised. A white-furred rodent was next to him. It was Director Nizu. "Nizu, well? You saw it with your own eyes." "All Might, that boy has a lot of potential. It's the first time I've seen someone like him." Meanwhile, on the other side of the campus, a light blue-haired girl was in the area where those from Class 1A were. She had seen what the green-haired boy had done. The beautiful girl's eyes were shining with excitement at what she had seen. "NEJIRE, that boy is incredible. I can't believe he has that strength," and his arm healed itself. "I want to know more about his quirk. But I can't now, I have to go back to the classroom. Well, I know I'll see him at lunchtime. I have to tell Mirio about this. I'm sure he'll be just as excited as I am." The light blue-haired girl ran away from the place with a big smile. "Isawa, okay Kamadu, you can go back to your place. Please let another student follow." Izuku would lean against the wall, his arm shaking quite a bit, not to mention it hurt. An orange-haired girl kept watching him. Bakugo would be the next to pass. He would arrogantly say, "I will surpass that mark." This one with a big explosion would throw the ball. When it fell to the ground, Isawa would say, 705 meters Bakugo. Bakugo would clench his fist in frustration. He had used all his strength, and still barely managed to get past 700 meters. After that, everyone would go on to take the test. Izuku had come in second place. Since first place had been won by Uraraka, in third place would be Bakugo, and in last place was Mineta. This one was terrified that he would be expelled. Several were relieved that they had not come in last place. Isawa, well, the thing about expelling the last person left in the tests was to lie. Everyone shouted. "What? Momo, didn't you notice? It was clear that it was a lie to make us give our best effort." Mineta had sighed in relief. Several were embarrassed for not having noticed. Isawa, okay, go change your uniforms and return to the classroom. Now you will have classes with another teacher. Everyone would nod and start walking. Izuku was behind everyone, but Isawa had stopped him to speak. "Izuku, what about you?" "Isawa, I don't really say this often, but you impress me, boy. I want you to continue surprising me as long as I am your teacher. You have potential that I haven't seen in so long." Izuku would give a smile and say, "Thank you, sensei. I promise I will give my best." Izuku would bow and leave. "Isawa, you can get out of there now. I know you saw the practice." "Nizu, wow, so you knew about our presence." "Isawa, what do you think, Director?" "Nizu, I think we have several promising youngsters this year." "All Might, wow, what happened to you, Isawa? It's rare that you haven't kicked someone out." "Isawa, I saw the potential in some, others have to awaken it. And I'll take care of it." After saying that, the black-haired man left the place. Nizu would only give a smile. Meanwhile, in the third-year students' lounge, a light blue-haired girl was very excitedly telling her two friends what she had seen. A blonde with a big smile would say, "Is what you're telling me true, NEJIRE?" "NEJIRE, yes, of course." Mirio's arm healed itself, and it seems that he has super strength or something. He sent the ball flying very high. I heard Isawa say that he had done 1,100 meters. The boy now known as Mirio would say, "Well, I'm already looking forward to meeting Class 1A. NEJIRE, me too." Next to both young people there was a black-haired boy who would say, "As always, you two are still so noisy, especially you, NEJIRE." "NEJIRE, I just can't help it, Tamaki. That boy makes me quite curious. I want to know more about him." NEJIRE would watch Tamaki walk away a bit with his phone. "NEJIRE, what are you doing, Tamaki?" Tamaki, while talking on the phone, would say, "If I want to report a girl, Her name is NEJIRE Hato, she is 17 years old. I will immediately give you her home address. NEJIRE would take Tamaki by the shoulder. Tamaki would slowly turn his gaze with some fear. He would see how NEJIRE emanated a terrifying aura. NEJIRE, why don't you tell me what you were saying about me? Tamaki, I've been there. Mirio just laughed at the scene. Mirio, so this year is going to be pretty entertaining. Okay, Class 1A, here we go. Chapter 5. The freckled boy was walking through the halls. After he had changed his sports uniform, the freckled boy was somewhat tired from having used his quirk excessively and abruptly. But he did not regret anything, because if he wanted to be the best hero, he had to give his best and improve more and more every day. Upon arriving at the classroom, he saw how some of his classmates were looking at him, as if they wanted to ask him something, but his demonic aura intimidated them a little. Izuku just took a breath and sat down in his respective place. Kendo looked at him sideways because she was curious to know more about him. The orange-haired girl was in doubt about whether to talk to him or not. Now they would be classmates, right? So it wouldn't be strange to want to know more about him. Izuku noticed how she was looking at him. He turned his gaze towards her to ask if she needed something, but Kendo quickly turned her gaze away, ignoring him. Izuku, did he just ignore me? He said this while having a drop of sweat on his head in anime style. The boys would have English classes with present mic. The hours had passed relatively normally, reaching lunchtime. During classes, Izuku could notice how a certain explosive blonde looked at him with rivalry and some hatred. Izuku just decided to ignore him. The freckled boy constantly noticed how several of his companions looked at him at times. Some whispers could be heard lightly. The freckled boy would be walking towards the academy dining room. When he arrived, he could see how all the students of the academy were there. The freckled boy grabbed a tray and went for his lunch. He preferred to eat lunch alone, so he went towards the roof of the academy. On the way, he crossed paths with the big three, but the freckled boy was so absorbed in his thoughts that he didn't take them into account. The big three, while they were talking, didn't notice that the green-haired boy passed by them. Upon reaching the roof, Izuku sat on the ground and looked up at the cloudy sky. Izuku, yes, it's definitely going to rain. The freckled boy began to eat his lunch. At times he remembered the moments he had lived with his father, when he remembered that a smile of great joy appeared on his face. As usual, his demon in the form of a shadow came out of his body and began to talk to him. His quirk was the only company the freckled boy had. Meanwhile, in the cafeteria, NEJIRE was looking for a certain green-haired man, since she had already located her first-year classmates, but she didn't see him anywhere. NEJIRE, where could it be? I saw him this morning during practice with Izuku-sensei. Mirio, maybe I have retired from the academy. NEJIRE, do you believe that? Tamaki, or maybe he prefers to be alone, away from the rest. People are scary. NEJIRE, with a drop of sweat on her head, would say. I don't think that's it. You're the only one who's afraid of talking to other people. I don't think there's another person like you, Tamaki. Mirio just laughed at the blue-haired girl's words. Lunchtime was over. Now all the young people were in class waiting for their teacher. Then the door opened wide and a muscular blonde entered, saying, I'm coming in as a normal person. The boys screamed with excitement except for Bakugo, Todoroki, and Izuku. Mina, it can't be true. All Might will give us hero classes. The blonde showed a big smile. All Might. Well, young people like you have already sent the design of your costumes. Our managers have already finished them. I pressed a button and the boys' suits emerged from the walls. Except for Izuku, All Might looked at him and asked, Young Kamadu, you were the only one who did not send the ideas for your suit. Is there any reason for this? Izuku, I just still have no idea how I want my suit, that's all. All Might, I see, then you will wear the sports suit. Izuku, okay. All Might, okay, young people, go put on your costumes, I'll see you in the backyard of the academy. The boys obeyed their teacher, and after a few minutes the young people were gathered at the indicated place. Note: the place was where they do the bomb rescue test. End of note. All Might. Well, young people, today you will have to work in pairs. This is essential for you to learn to collaborate, and create strategies with your partner, not to mention that it is a good opportunity to get to know your partner better. I was in charge of forming the following couples. All Might began to name the couples. All Might, and finally young Kamadu with young Tokoemi. Each one was with their respective partner. The blonde began to explain to them that they had to enter the building and rescue the bomb or defeat the villain. Momo raised her hand saying, "But sensei, who will be the villains?" All Might was about to speak when a voice said, "They called us." The boys turned around and found 3 people. The boys looked somewhat surprised. All Might, Class 1 present to you. Izuku, so our rivals will be the big 3, huh? Everyone turned to look at Izuku. Indeed, it was the big 3, each one was in their hero costume. A wide smile was reflected on the light blue-haired girl when she saw Izuku. She quickly approached him asking, "Hey, are those freckles you have natural? What is your quirk called? What can you do with it?" Izuku was slightly blushing as the light blue-haired girl's face was very close to his. The others saw how the light blue-haired girl spoke quite normally to Izuku. All Might made a fake cough saying, "Ahem, Miss Hato, please concentrate." "NEJIRE, so sorry I got carried away." She gave a big smile saying, "My name is NEJIRE Hato, the black-haired boy next to me is Tamaki Amaiki." Mirio with a big smile would say, "And I'm Mirio Togata, I'm glad to meet you all." All Might, Class, they are the big 3, they are considered the best in the entire academy. They are the closest to being professional heroes. At those words the boys were surprised. Mineta and Kaminari looked at the light blue-haired girl with lust, because she had a nice body, and her heroine costume highlighted it even more. All Might, well, they will be the villains in this test. For each couple one of them will face you. Also at the end of the test they will be given some advice so they can improve with their quirks. Remember to rescue the bomb or knock your opponent unconscious. Each of you will have intercoms so you can talk to your partner. All the boys agreed very excitedly, and some a little nervously, because they were not going to face just anyone, these were the big 3. As the minutes passed, the couples went through one by one, facing one of the big 3. After an hour all the remaining couples had failed their mission. The last couple missing was Tokoemi and Izuku. All Might was in the observation room, because inside the building there were cameras that recorded everything. The couples that faced Mirio ended up with a severe stomach ache. In the room were Mirio and Tamaki along with the rest of the boys. Bakugo faced Mirio and lost colossally. Izuku and Tokoemi stood in front of the building waiting for the signal to enter. Tokoemi, "Hey Kamadu, do you have any plans? We don't know which of the big 3 might be in there." In fact, the boys did not know who their rival was. Izuku, to tell you the truth, no, I don't have any plans, but I know we can win. Tokoemi, wow, you really have a lot of confidence, Dark Shadow, and I trust you. Izuku saw how a bird-shaped shadow came out of Tokoemi. Izuku in his thoughts would say, "His quirk is the same as mine, well it's a bit similar." Tokoemi, "Kamadu, I present to you Dark Shadow, he is my partner." Izuku, wow, that's amazing. All Might would say through the intercoms, "You may enter the building." Izuku and Tokoemi looked at each other and nodded as they walked into the building. Upon entering, Izuku could see how big it was inside. "Izuku, the bomb is most likely on the 4th floor." Tokoemi, "You're right. What's the plan?" Izuku, "Tell me what you can do with Dark Shadow." Tokoemi, "Well, he can do physical damage and become bigger and stronger depending on how much darkness there is in the place." Izuku, "I see." Tokoemi, "But there is a problem." Izuku, "And what is it?" Tokoemi, "The darker the place, the harder it is for me to control Dark Shadow. I simply can't handle him. He takes control and destroys everything in his path, as if he were a monster." Izuku, "Wow, you definitely have an amazing quirk." Tokoemi, "Thank you. And who do you think we'll have to fight?" Izuku, "I don't know, but we have to be cautious." Meanwhile, the boys who were in the observation room only saw the young people. An orange-haired girl focused her gaze on the green-haired boy. "Izuku, okay, Let's move forward, Tokoyami. They both began to walk through the halls of the building. The boys were already on the second floor, about to turn to reach the third floor. As they got there, they had to take a big leap backwards, dodging some waves courtesy of a certain blue-haired girl. NEJIRE with a smile would say, "Well done, guys, you have good reflections." The waves had destroyed a large part of the building's wall. "Izuku, it's Miss NEJIRE. From what I see, she can attack from a distance with her quirk, so you have to be careful." Tokoyami would just nod his head. Izuku would quietly say, "When I give you the signal, I will start running forward. I will position myself in front of you. I will be your shield. Once we are close to you, attack with dark shadow, understood?" Tokoyami, "Yes, it's okay." The freckled boy's hair turned black and his eyes turned crimson red, putting tension in the atmosphere. Izuku now. He quickly got in front of Tokoyami and started running at high speed. Tokoyami hurried to keep up with him. NEJIRE, attack directly, big mistake, guys. She put her hands pointing towards the boys. She quickly charged her energy waves. Izuku ran towards her with a smile. NEJIRE fired her waves with a force considerable enough to knock someone unconscious. The freckled boy had previously rolled up the sleeves of his sports suit. Izuku's entire forearm, including his wrist, palm, and fingers, were covered by a kind of black veins, which covered all the named areas. This happened on both of his arms. The freckled boy put his hands in it. The boys in the observation room watched this in amazement. Mirio, wow, that boy is incredible. Chapter 6. Izuku's arms were releasing a bit of steam. Tokoyami, Kamadu, are you okay? Izuku, if you don't worry, let's keep moving forward. Once again the youngsters attacked the light blue-haired girl. NEJIRE continued to attack now with more power, but Izuku continued to receive them fully. NEJIRE, seeing that the boys were already quite close to her, took a step back, giving a small smile. Izuku managed to see her and said as they ran towards her, "Estate listing for Tokoyami." NEJIRE sent her energy to the soles of her feet, sending the waves directly to the ground, causing it to shatter abruptly. The boys lost their balance due to this surprise attack. NEJIRE took advantage of this to attack them, but great was her surprise seeing how only Izuku was getting up from the ground. "NEJIRE, where's the other boy?" She quickly looked up and saw in astonishment how Tokoyami was in the air above her. Tokoyami gave her a strong blow with dark shadow, sending the light blue-haired girl against the wall. NEJIRE would spit out some saliva. Tokoyami quickly went for the bomb. NEJIRE recovered and pointed his arms at Tokoyami to launch her waves at him. But quickly an intense darkness covered the second floor. Those who were watching could no longer see anything that was happening on the second floor. They could only see how Tokoyami was running through the third floor. NEJIRE turned around watching as that darkness came out of Izuku's body. "Izuku, senpai, you wanted to know what I can do with my quirk, right? Well, it's time for me to provide it to you." NEJIRE saw Izuku's eyes glow brightly with a crimson red. A slight chill ran through her body. Her legs trembled a little. "NEJIRE, am I afraid? My body feels like it's not responding to me." Izuku began to run towards her. NEJIRE attacked him repeatedly with her waves. While she levitated off the ground, Izuku easily dodged them. This surprised her quite a bit. When Izuku was close enough to her to hit her, NEJIRE spun around, throwing a powerful kick to the head. Izuku managed to cover himself by putting his right forearm to the side of his face, receiving the impact. Izuku was moved a little to his left side. "Izuku, you have a unique strength," NEJIRE said with a smile. "Did you think it only depended on my quirk? Well, you're wrong. I took boxing and taekwondo classes." The light blue-haired girl got into a fighting stance and began to attack the freckled boy with great ferocity, while accumulating strength in her right arm for an attack. Izuku dodged the light blue-haired girl's punches and kicks. NEJIRE looked very excited to fight with Izuku like that. Izuku at times blocked the attacks with great mastery, which amazed the light blue-haired girl. Having enough energy accumulated in her arm, NEJIRE launched a spinning kick as a distraction. Izuku leaned his body back a little, dodging the kick. When he looked back at his opponent, he saw how NEJIRE had her arm pointing towards him. NEJIRE was hit by a powerful energy wave. The green-haired man was sent flying crashing into the wall. Over the intercom, Tokoyami would say, "I'm already reaching the 4th floor, Kamadu." Izuku, recovering from the attack, said, "Okay, understood." "NEJIRE, I think I overdid it." The light blue-haired girl looked very confident. Izuku, "Well, now it's my turn, senpai." "NEJIRE, well, come with everything." The light blue-haired girl couldn't finish speaking since Izuku was in front of her. Izuku would carry a lot of energy in his right fist. "Izuku, I'll return the energy attack to you." He put his palm on the blue-haired girl's abdomen and hit her full on with all the accumulated energy. NEJIRE spat out a lot of saliva and flew out crashing against the wall of the place. A strong taste of wind hit the place. The blue-haired girl was unconscious after that hit. Izuku approached her to help her. The freckled boy couldn't help but blush when he saw how parts of NEJIRE's suit were torn. One part revealed her abdomen, and the other revealed her left breast. The blue-haired girl was wearing a black bra. Izuku just looked to the side, blushing a lot, saying, "His chest is huge." He took off his shirt and gently put it on her. After doing this, Izuku made all the darkness disappear, in which Tokoyami would say, "Bomb captured. All Might, the heroes win." Mirio and Tamaki watched in amazement as Izuku carried the unconscious NEJIRE in his arms. The girls were slightly blushing when they saw Izuku's torso. Izuku waited for his partner Tokoyami. When he saw him, he would say, "Why does Miss Hato have your shirt?" "Izuku, don't ask." "Tokoyami, it's okay." They both started walking towards the exit. Izuku delicately carried NEJIRE in his arms. Izuku, in his thoughts, would say, "She's very cute, but what are you thinking, Izuku?" This reminded him of the light blue-haired bra. Izuku's face was completely red. Tokoyami saw this and asked, "Kamadu, are you okay?" "Izuku, if nothing happens." As they left the building, the rest of the class was waiting for them along with All Might. All Might looked at both young men and said, "Good job, guys, you passed the test." The girls looked at Izuku with a slight blush. "Mirio, hey green hair, why does NEJIRE have your shirt?" "Izuku, please don't ask the reason." The freckled boy asked All Might for permission to take NEJIRE to the infirmary. The blonde just agreed. The freckled boy just said goodbye to Tokoyami and headed to the infirmary. Upon arriving at the infirmary, Recovery would check on NEJIRE. Fortunately, the light blue-haired girl had no injuries. Izuku just left the place and went to put on his normal uniform since he was without his shirt. After putting on his uniform, the freckled boy returned to his classroom. Upon arriving, he could feel everyone's gaze. Izuku just took a deep breath and headed to his seat. After a few minutes in the infirmary, a certain light blue-haired girl woke up. She was wondering where she was, but when she looked around she realized that she was in the infirmary. "Recovery, I see you're finally awake, girl." "NEJIRE, the last thing I remember was fighting that boy, and then I don't remember anything else." The light blue-haired girl saw that she had a sports shirt on over her suit. She wondered, "And this?" "Recovery, it's from the boy who brought you." NEJIRE blushed upon learning the reason why he had that shirt on. "Recovery, that boy is quite the gentleman, he carried you like a princess in his arms." Chapter 7. Recovery, are they in a relationship? NEJIRE blushed heavily at that question and shook her head. "Recovery only if it slows down a little." "Well, you can go now, you're fine." NEJIRE thanked her and left. The light blue-haired girl was walking through the halls. She was thinking about Izuku, because she had undoubtedly had a lot of fun facing him. She also wanted to give him back his shirt. Izuku's scent came from it. NEJIRE blushed a lot, because she knew the reason why he had put his shirt on her, and just thinking about it made her blush a lot. She went to the locker room and changed into her normal uniform. Upon leaving, she headed to her classroom to realize that there was no one there. NEJIRE checked her phone and saw several messages from Mirio telling her that they had left class early, among other things. NEJIRE just gathered her things and prepared to leave the academy. When she was at the door, she saw that it was raining. NEJIRE, great, and I didn't bring my umbrella today. Well, I guess I have no choice but to run away. The light blue girl was about to start running, since she didn't care since she was going to get wet anyway. She heard a noise above her head, looking up to find an umbrella above her. NEJIRE turned her gaze, meeting a certain green-haired man who was holding the umbrella. Izuku, be there senpai, otherwise you might catch a cold. NEJIRE just looked into Izuku's eyes. She took the umbrella and for a brief second her fingers touched. Izuku just showed his typical smile. A small current of energy ran through NEJIRE's body. NEJIRE, thank you. Izuku, you're welcome. The freckled boy began to walk in the rain. NEJIRE saw how several boys from Izuku's class were already leaving. NEJIRE ran after Izuku. Izuku stopped feeling the drops of water on his body. NEJIRE, we can walk together, don't you think? I also don't want my kohai to get sick. Izuku just looked at her in the eyes and said, You are weird, senpai. NEJIRE, hey, and why am I weird? Izuku, because she's the first girl who talks to me without getting nervous and scared of me. NEJIRE, well, it's true you have a scary aura, but in your eyes I can see that you are a nice, gentle, and kind boy. She said this while tucking a lock of hair behind her right ear, while giving him a warm smile. Izuku remembered what he saw and blushed heavily. He just turned his gaze away. NEJIRE noticed this and blushed, knowing the reason. NEJIRE, you saw it, right? Izuku, sorry, but it was hard not to see. Well, they were big. NEJIRE was completely red at those words. NEJIRE, ba baka, don't say things like that. Not a single word of this to anyone, okay? It will be a secret between the two of us. Izuku, I'll take this secret to the grave. They both walked side by side, somewhat blushing. Izuku was carrying the umbrella now since he was taller than NEJIRE by a few centimeters. NEJIRE, by the way, you still haven't told me your name. Izuku, oh sorry, I'm Izuku Kamadu. NEJIRE, what a nice name you have, Izuku. Izuku, thanks senpai. NEJIRE, if you want you can call me NEJIRE. Right now we are not at the academy, so you can call me senpai. The light blue-haired girl let out a small laugh. Izuku, it's okay I mean NEJIRE. NEJIRE, can I tell you Izuku-kun? Izuku, of course. NEJIRE just gave a big smile. By the way, congratulations for knocking me out. You and your partner were incredible during the test, especially you. You know I was curious to meet you. Izuku, me and why? NEJIRE, well, I saw the test you had with Aisawa-sensei. I saw how you literally destroyed the field, and how your arm healed itself. It was really incredible to see you that time, and well, I put all my attention on you. Izuku, thanks I guess. NEJIRE, you have an incredible quirk. What is it called? Izuku remained silent without saying anything. NEJIRE, well, if you don't want to tell me, that's fine. Forgive me if I'm very annoying with the questions, I just can't help being like that. Every time I see someone with a quirk this amazing, I ask them questions to know more about them. So I understand that my questions bother you, he said with his eyes downcast. Izuku, it's not that. I think she looks really cute and tender with her curiosity. NEJIRE looked up with a slight blush, seeing Izuku saying, Hey, are you serious? Izuku, yes, well, although you are already very pretty senpai, but you really look very cute being so curious. Well, I am happy since you are the first one who is interested in getting to know me, and that makes me happy. For the first time, NEJIRE blushed at a boy's words. Once again, that current of electricity lightly hits her body. Something in NEJIRE told her that she wanted to know more about that green-haired boy. Izuku, well, the truth is that my quirk is called demonic manifestation, or demon so to speak. When my eyes turn crimson red and my hair turns black, it's because I'm using my quirk. It gives me superhuman strength. It improves my physical and healing abilities. NEJIRE just listened attentively to Izuku's words. Izuku, I know you must consider me a monster. When I go into my final form I end up turning into a complete demon. That's why I have a scary aura, a demonic aura. That's why I find it hard to make friends. You're the first one who talks to me normally and wants to know more about me, and that makes me happy. I grew up without any friends, so sometimes I sit in a park, and I watch the couples go by and I think that one day maybe I could have someone so special by my side. Izuku showed a smile saying. But deep down I know that no one could love this demon. Izuku just let out a small laugh, to hide that loneliness. NEJIRE just looked at Izuku, noticing his words and the sadness in them. NEJIRE, then I'll be your first friend. Izuku stopped and turned to look at her and asked. Do you really want to be my friend, senpai? NEJIRE pouting said. I already told you that you can call me NEJIRE, and yes, I want to be your friend if you let me. Izuku just gave her a warm smile, thanking her for the gesture. NEJIRE just saw how warm the green-haired man's smile was. They both arrived at the train station and boarded the same train. Both young people were standing, because the car was full of passengers due to the rain. NEJIRE was against Izuku. At the next stop more passengers got on, to the point that NEJIRE was against the wall of the car and Izuku in front of her. Both just looked at each other in the eyes with a slight blush. Izuku, I'm so sorry. NEJIRE, it's okay, this isn't your fault, the car is very full. The light blue-haired girl stared into the green-haired girl's emerald eyes. Izuku likewise got lost in the light blue-haired girl's eyes. It was as if nothing else existed around them. Their faces were so close as were their bodies, being so close they could feel each other's breathing. No one said a word. The train had arrived at the last station where everyone got off, as well as Izuku and NEJIRE. Izuku gave the umbrella to NEJIRE, because from that point they would both take different directions. NEJIRE could only watch as the green-haired man walked away from her. She only had a smile on her face. Well, she was happy to know a little more about him, and they had become friends, which made the light blue girl happy. When she got home, her mother welcomed her as always and scolded her for forgetting her umbrella. NEJIRE just laughed a little. Her mother saw that she had an umbrella and asked her where she got it from. The light blue-haired girl told her that a friend had given it to her. His mother put on a mischievous smile saying, Are you sure he's just a friend? It couldn't be that the boy you like gave it to you and that's why you're so happy, right? NEJIRE blushed quite a bit at those words. NEJIRE, no mom, he's just a friend still. Mother, I heard well you said, still? That means that in the future he could be your boyfriend, right? NEJIRE just ignored her mother's comment and went to her room. When she arrived, she went to the bathroom and took a shower, remembering the fight she had with Izuku and how kind he was to her. The light blue-haired girl had a slight smile on her face. She would say in a low voice, I can't wait for tomorrow to see you again, Izuku. When he got home, the freckled man took a bath, worked out a little, and went to sleep because his body was demanding a rest from all the physical exertion he had done during the day. The next day the freckled man got up at 6 in the morning, to begin his daily training routine as usual. Afterwards he got dressed, had breakfast and left for the UA Academy. He took the train station and as if it were fate he came across a certain blue-haired girl, who couldn't help but give him a warm smile when she saw him. Chapter 8. Izuku blushed at the light blue-haired girl's smile, but he reciprocated it by giving her a smile. NEJIRE walked through the crowd to reach the green-haired man. Good morning, Izuku. Izuku, good morning, Sin. He saw how NEJIRE began to puff out her cheeks, making a very cute pout. Izuku, I say good morning, NEJIRE-san. NEJIRE was about to speak, but the train suddenly stopped, causing her to cling to Izuku, who in reaction hugged her delicately so as not to let go. NEJIRE blushed, but without getting off him, she raised her gaze, meeting the freckled boy's emerald eyes. There it was again, that little stream of emotions, running through every inch of her body. Izuku-senpai, are you okay? Thank goodness I caught her. I wonder what happened to make the train stop suddenly. The freckled man held on to the railing of the carriage with his left hand, and hugged NEJIRE with his right hand. NEJIRE placed both hands on the freckled boy's chest. Both could only look into each other's eyes without saying a single word. Izuku began to feel something warm in his chest. At that the train started moving again. This caused Izuku and NEJIRE to separate. The light blue-haired girl had her gaze lowered with her face adorned with a beautiful blush. Izuku was also a little blushing but decided to speak to break the silence, saying, You know, I couldn't sleep much yesterday, he said, laughing a little. NEJIRE, huh? Why couldn't you sleep? Izuku, well, I was happy to have made a friend. I told Dad that I had made my first friend. I told him that she was a very beautiful girl. NEJIRE blushed slightly upon hearing that, saying, Do you really think I'm pretty? Izuku, of course, senpai. I'm sure they tell you that very often. He showed a warm smile. NEJIRE quietly said, Thank you. At the next stop, both young men got off and began walking towards the UA. On the way, they came across a blonde and a black-haired man, who greeted them upon seeing the couple. Mirio, good morning, NEJIRE. Oh, you are the boy from the test. What was your name? I remembered Izuku Kamadu, right? Izuku, yes, nice to meet you, Mirio-senpai, and Tamaki-senpai. Mirio, I see you already know us. Izuku, well, they are the big three, it would be difficult not to know about you. Mirio with a smile replied. You're amazing, boy, you were able to defeat NEJIRE in the test. I wish I could have faced you, but I hope we can get along. Izuku, thanks, senpai. He looked at Tamaki, who approached Izuku and whispered in his ear. If she does something to you, tell me so I can call the UN. At that he looked sideways to his side. Seeing NEJIRE with an intimidating aura, she asked, What did you say to Izuku, Tamaki? I hope it's not what I think. Tamaki began to tremble, saying, Here I go, St. Peter. Izuku just laughed a little. In this way the four of them began to walk together, while talking about trivial things. Izuku was happy because he had never been able to relate in that way with other people, since they were afraid of him. But he saw how NEJIRE, Mirio, and Tamaki were different from the rest. Upon arriving at the academy, everyone was looking at the freckled boy as he was accompanied by the big three. They separated to go to their respective classrooms. Upon arriving, Izuku just ignored the glances of his classmates and sat in his seat. The homeroom teacher had arrived. Aisawa, well, I was checking the results of the test you had yesterday with all might. Kamadu, Tokoimi, congratulations for passing the test and defeating one of the big three. Good job, guys. Remember, teamwork is important, whether you are doing a test, or in the worst case scenario in a fight against villains. He looked at a certain explosive blonde, saying, You heard Bakugo, teamwork is important. Bakugo just made an annoyed face and looked away. Aisawa, well, I understand that you received some advice from the big three. So today you will put them to the test. Today they will have a team building training. They will be formed into 2 groups of 10 members. I will name the first group, which will be made up of Yayorozu, Ashido, Toru, Shoji, Kaminari, Siro, Uraraka, Mineta, Koda, and the last Kamadu. Mina said quietly. We had to work with him, she said somewhat nervously because of the demonic aura he emanated. Tokoimi just glanced at Izuku, who lowered his head somewhat sadly at Mina's words. Aisawa, Kamadu, I expect great things from your team. Well, I don't need to name the rest of the other team. Well, since you already have your outfits, put them on. I'll wait for you outside the academy. Bakugo, knowing that he would have a chance to face Izuku, smiled smugly. Izuku just stood up and left the class because he was the only one who didn't have his suit yet. Well, he still didn't know how to do it. In the hallways, Izuku was just thinking about what kind of test they could have. Being so lost in his thoughts, he collided with a certain light blue-haired girl. Both fell, but Izuku fell on top of NEJIRE. Izuku had his eyes closed but said, I'm so sorry, forgive me. When he opened his eyes, he saw how his lips were centimeters away from NEJIRE's. NEJIRE was blushing deeply. NEJIRE, no way, no way. They were so close that they could feel each other's breathing. Izuku quickly stood up in embarrassment. Forgive me, senpai, I was distracted. He extended his hand to her and NEJIRE, still blushing, took it. They were both blushing. Izuku, be you well, I'm leaving now, senpai. NEJIRE, thank you, Izuku. They both just gave each other one last look before continuing on their way. NEJIRE sat down in her seat when she arrived at her classroom, and covered her face with her notebook because she was very nervous about the moment she had just experienced. Mirio noticed how her friend behaved and asked her if she was okay. NEJIRE nodded without looking at Mirio. The memory of Izuku's lips so close to hers passed through her mind. Without a doubt, that little moment caused endless emotions in the blue-haired girl. She said in a low voice. His lips. On the other hand, the freckled boy was outside the academy with Isawa, who upon seeing him asked him about his outfit. Izuku answered the same thing he said to All Might, so he was only wearing his sports suit. Isawa understood. After a few minutes the entire Class 1A was gathered outside, where a traffic jam was waiting for them. Isawa, come on up so we can go to the place where you will practice. The boys agreed and went up. Izuku was sitting alone. But then someone sat down next to him. The freckled boy turned his gaze, meeting Tokoemi. Tokoemi, do you mind if I sit next to you, Kamadu? Izuku, of course not. They started talking about various things. After 20 minutes the boys arrived at a fake city, with abandoned buildings. Getting off the bus the boys saw that Director Nizu and All Might were there. Isawa, well, this is where they will do their test. Nizu, welcome guys, we were waiting for you. I will explain to you how this test will be. Well, since there are two groups, one will be the villains so to speak, the other group will have to rescue the hostages who will be inside the building. There are hostages who are test dummies and there are hostages who are real people, so they will have to be very careful. Isawa, the group that will have the hostages will be Bakugo's group. Kamadu, your group will have to rescue the hostages. Bakugo, you and your group enter the building I'm pointing out. Inside you will find Cementos who will tell you more about the test. The blonde's group began to walk deeper into the building. Before entering, Tokoemi looked at Izuku saying, Good luck, Kamadu. Izuku, likewise Tokoemi. After saying that, he disappeared into the building. Isawa, well, once Bakugo's group is ready we will give them the order to enter. Remember, it's teamwork. We'll now give you intercoms to let you know. After a few minutes Izuku gathered with his group to start strategizing. An awkward silence hung over the place. Well, they were afraid of Izuku. Momo was the first to speak saying, well, we have to come up with a strategy to win. Toru, you're right, Yaoyorozu. Izuku, well, I'll need to know their quirks. At the freckled man's words, each member went on to explain their quirk. Izuku, we are at a noticeable disadvantage. We don't have many who can attack from a distance. But on the other team, yes, we are lucky to have Shoji on our side. His quirk is very useful. Kaminari can use a certain amount of flips before short-circuiting. Our greatest weapon is Toru. Toru, me? She asked, pointing at herself. Izuku, if your quirk allows you to become invisible so we can rescue the hostages without them noticing. I know very well that they are afraid of me, and that they do not want to work with me. But this is a test and I'm here to be a hero, but I can't do it all alone. So I'm counting on you. I'm lucky to have a team with good quirks. Although we cannot attack from a distance, we can attack in other ways, so I am counting on you. The freckled boy smiled, and at those words the boys became a little more comfortable with the green-haired boy. Chapter 9. They were ordered to enter the building. Izuku, okay group, it's time to be heroes. We're going beyond the plus-ultra limit, they all said at the same time. Upon entering the building, the boys could see its instability. Izuku, Yaoyorozu, can you give us information about the building? Momo took an artifact out of her pocket, and from it came a hologram of the building with details of it. Momo, this is a building consisting of 4 upper floors and 3 lower floors. There is no electricity inside. Izuku, I see, the hostages can be on any floor. Momo, you're right, although they could also be on the upper floor or the lower floor. Izuku, you're right, we'll have to move carefully since if I remember correctly the girl named Kyuka can hear everything with her jacks. Momo, you're right, we must be cautious. Izuku, good going. Shoji, by the way, be attentive, your quirk will be very helpful. We'll focus on the top floor first, although we might be attacked from any side. The boys agreed and began to walk stealthily. Shoji was attentive to any sound. When they reached the top floor they found nothing, indicating that the hostages were on the ground floors. Izuku, well, from now on we will know that maybe they may be waiting for us on the first floor. Well, it's time to start with our plan. When the boys reached the first floor, they noticed that the walls and supports were fragile. Izuku, we have to be careful, these foundations are unstable. They began to walk slowly. Izuku could feel the cold making itself felt. Izuku, Shiro and Uraraka, lift up those who can, jump quickly. Uraraka touched those she could and made them float with her quirk. Shiro launched his friends upwards with his ribbons. Izuku carried Momo and Mina in his arms while taking a great leap. Within seconds the room was covered in ice. The boys fell to the floor. Izuku, that was close. Todoroki, I thought I would take them by surprise, but they were able to dodge my attacks. Good job. Izuku analyzed Todoroki for a brief second. Wow, your attack was a good idea. Freezing your opponent would have given you absolute victory. Todoroki attacked with an ice pillar. Izuku stood in front of his companions. His eyes glowed a crimson color. The sleeve on Izuku's right arm broke abruptly. Momo and the others could see how a darkness covered his arm at least up to where the freckled boy's bicep began. Izuku delivered a powerful blow to the pillar, shattering it into pieces. The pressure of the wind sent Todoroki flying a couple of meters. Izuku opened his eyes wide as he saw Bakugo standing above Todoroki. With his grenade glove ready, he had an arrogant smile. Bakugo, shiny! Izuku saw how his companions would not have time to react, so he sent darkness to his left arm. Now his fingers looked like huge claws. The freckled man put his arms in the shape of an X. Taking the full impact of the explosion, while protecting his teammates, the explosion was so big that it raised a smoke screen. Bakugo had a smile on his face. Todoroki, Bakugo, I think you went overboard with the explosion. As the dust dispersed, Izuku could be seen with his arms releasing steam, and his suit completely destroyed. Bakugo, so you could withstand the explosion, huh? How about someone else? Izuku, now Yaoyorozu. Behind Izuku was Momo with a cannon. Momo, without wasting time, fired. This took the two by surprise. Todoroki quickly created a pillar protecting himself from the attack. Another explosion was created, this time raising more steam. Not being able to see anything, Todoroki and Bakugo took a step back, but they were stuck to something. As the steam from the explosion dispersed, they could see Mineta's sticky spheres surrounding them both. Kaminari was in the air, and in his hand he had a powerful amount of flips. Kaminari, it's my turn to shine. This impacted his attack on both of them, leaving them completely unconscious. Shiro tied them both up with his ribbons. Izuku, well done, guys. We must continue. Mina, Kamadu, are you okay? You took the hit for us. Izuku, don't worry, I'm fine. We are a team and I will protect you with my body as long as I am standing. I gave a warm smile. Mina and the others understood that they had misjudged him the first time. Izuku, Mineta and Kaminari, well done, guys. Yaoyorozu, are you okay? Momo, yes, don't worry, I still have enough strength and lipids to continue creating things. Izuku, okay, but don't overdo it. Yeah, well, from now on, Toru and Uraraka will have to enter the scene. Both girls nodded their heads. Meanwhile, on the last lower floor were the hostages along with the rest of the boys. Ida, the explosion stopped. Bakugo, Todoroki, what happened up there? TCH. They don't answer me. I'll go to the second floor to help Tokoemi. You guys stay here in case they come, you know what to do. The rest agreed. Ida ran off at high speed. Upon reaching the second floor they met Tokoemi, and later Ida arrived. Izuku, I'll take care of them, you already know the rest of the plan. Everyone agreed. Ida, we won't let them pass from here. Get ready, Tokoemi. Tokoemi, ready, Dark Shadow. He watched in astonishment as his partner hid behind him. The freckled man's shadow began to grow larger on the ground. Izuku opened his eyes, showing his crimson pupils. Both of their feet were held by the shadow on the ground. Izuku's demonic aura was now more intimidating. Izuku, go guys. They did as they were told and ran past Ida and Tokoemi, who couldn't move. Ida tried to call the intercom, but the sound was choppy. Izuku released them, covering the entire room in immense darkness. Izuku, come with everything. Dark Shadow was scared by Izuku's demonic shadow. Ida couldn't move from the spot, her legs wouldn't respond. Izuku raised his hand up, causing the blue-haired boy to brutally crash into the ceiling of the place. Ida spat out blood and fell to the ground unconscious. Tokoyami saw this in astonishment. He told Dark Shadow to attack, but he didn't want to do it. He was being intimidated by Izuku's demonic presence. Izuku, with incredible speed, stood in front of him and gave him a powerful blow to the stomach, knocking him out. At that point, a certain black-haired woman's voice was heard saying over the intercom, "Hostages captured and safe." Izuku returned to his normal form, saying, "I knew they were going to make it." The freckled boy headed towards where they were to help with the evacuation of the hostages, which were Midnight in her civilian form, Present Mike, Recovery, and other people who were academy staff and the mannequins mentioned by Isawa. Midnight blushed a little when she saw the freckled boy with his torso exposed, as he had a good physique. After a few minutes, Recovery healed those who were injured. After a few minutes, Izuku's group was outside the building. All Might congratulated the freckled boy's group, as did Nizu. Isawa gave the freckled boy a slight smile. After everyone returned to the academy, once back, Momo sat next to Izuku and thanked him for everything. "Izuku, I didn't do anything, you did it. You have good quirks, you just have to put them to good use." "Momo, you created the strategy that helped us win." "Izuku, sometimes you have to follow your instincts and have more confidence in yourself. That's what my father used to tell me. Without you guys, I don't think I could have won. I would have you guys to thank you." Momo just gave him a warm smile. Once at UA, Izuku and the others went to change in the locker room. In the men's locker room, Kaminari, Shoji, and Tokoyami talked to the freckled boy, becoming more confident. Kaminari saw Izuku without his shirt on and looked at his worked body, so he asked, "Kamadu, you have a worked body. Your quirk must require good physical condition, or am I wrong?" "Izuku, you're right. My quirk is too much of a burden on my body, so I must train to strengthen my body." "Just like my quirk." "Kaminari, I see." Bakugo, after losing, was more upset than before. In the girls' locker room was a certain orange-haired girl, remembering how she had lost against Momo. Since the brunette had defeated her in the test, she certainly couldn't deny that they had organized themselves better, and that was why they lost. So lunchtime had arrived. Izuku was with his tray of food. As he was about to sit down, a certain light blue-haired girl called him from the other side of the cafeteria to sit next to her for lunch. He sat next to her, Mirio and Tamaki, and they started eating lunch. "Mirio, by the way, Nejire, this morning when you came back from the bathroom, you came back a little blushing. What was that due to?" Nejire was eating and choked on her food, as she remembered that moment with Izuku. Izuku just lowered his gaze, blushing a little, because he knew what they were talking about. Mirio and Tamaki noticed this and both looked at each other. Nejire, "Well, I'd rather not talk about it, it's a secret," she said, looking surreptitiously at Izuku. Mirio, "I see. By the way, Izuku, I heard that they had a practice test today, and that your group won." Izuku, "Hey, how did you find out about that, Mirio-senpai?" Mirio, "Well, I accidentally heard Isawa-sensei mention it." Izuku, "I see. If my group won," he said with a smile. Mirio, "I would have liked to have been there to see everything." Tamaki was just silent. Nejire, "By the way, Izuku, what are you doing in the afternoon after school?" Izuku, "And nothing, senpai, why do you ask?" Nejire, "Well, the three of us were going to go to karaoke and get something to eat, and I was wondering if you wanted to eat with us." Izuku, "Huh, can I really accompany you?" Mirio, "Of course, boy. Nejire hasn't stopped talking to us about you since she met you." At those words, Nejire blushed a little, saying, "Don't say such embarrassing things, Mirio." Mirio just laughed. Izuku just saw how cute Nejire looked when she blushed. Nejire, "So what do you say? Do you want to come with us?" Izuku, "Of course I want to go with you," he said without thinking. Nejire blushed as those words were not expressed correctly, so much so that they could be misunderstood. Izuku, "I say if I want to go with you." Mirio, "You see, Nejire, Izuku wants to go with you, not with us," he said, laughing. NEJIRE got nervous. Izuku felt sorry for having expressed himself badly. Chapter 10. After lunch, classes continued as normal. At the end of classes we can see a certain green-haired man waiting at the exit door of the UA. He was with his cell phone in his hand. Izuku was waiting for a certain light blue-haired man. In the distance a voice was heard. The freckled boy turned his gaze and saw NEJIRE coming towards him. NEJIRE, sorry to keep you waiting, Izuku. Izuku, it's okay, senpai. And where are Mirio and Tamaki senpai? NEJIRE, you see, we left half an hour early and they went home, but they said they would wait for us at the karaoke. And well, I stayed with some colleagues to do a couple of things. Izuku, I see, then let's go, senpai. NEJIRE, Baka, I told you that when we are not at the academy you can call me NEJIRE. Izuku, I'm sorry. They began to walk together towards the karaoke. As they walked, NEJIRE looked at the green-haired boy from time to time, and without knowing why she blushed slightly. After a few minutes they arrived at their destination. Mirio, guys are finally here, let's go in. We already asked for a room to sing, said the blonde with a big smile. The boys came in and had a nice time together. Izuku blushed a lot when he heard NEJIRE sing, because the light blue-haired girl had a nice voice as well as being very beautiful. Mirio, she's always been like that. Izuku, what do you say, senpai? Mirio, she always had a nice singing voice. Whenever we come here she looks really happy. She loves to sing, but what she likes most is making a new friend. That makes her happy. NEJIRE is a girl with a big heart. She is easy to read. Sometimes she behaves like a child, but that is how she is. Izuku, you're right. What I liked about her the first time I met her was her curiosity. She just approached me and treated me like a normal person. She gave me her kindness and that beautiful smile she has. The freckled boy blushed at that last thing and got a little nervous. Tamaki, that's how she is, curious and sometimes a bit silly, but she's always there for her friends. After finishing singing NEJIRE, the three of them gave her a big applause, embarrassing the blue-haired girl. After spending some time at the karaoke, they went to a food place where they tried a lot of delicious foods. After finishing eating they paid the bill. Tamaki was about to pay as usual, but Izuku offered to pay. After all, it was his first time going out with friends. Tamaki couldn't help but shed tears when he saw that Izuku was going to pay the bill. NEJIRE, don't be exercising, Tamaki. Tamaki, shut up, Baka, since you don't pay, it's easy to say that. Every time I go out with you, I end up paying. NEJIRE just let out a small laugh saying, it's because you are our friend. Tamaki, that doesn't mean I have to pay. NEJIRE, okay, next time I'll pay. Tamaki, hearing those words, asked, who are you? And what did you do with the real NEJIRE? NEJIRE got angry and started pulling his cheeks saying, you know I take back what I said a moment ago. Tamaki, I'm sorry, if you're the real NEJIRE. Izuku just laughed at the scene, after the four of them left the food place. Mirio, well, today was fun, but Tamaki and I have to go now. NEJIRE, so soon? Mirio, yes, I'm sorry, NEJIRE. NEJIRE, it's okay. Mirio and Tamaki said goodbye to Izuku and NEJIRE. Izuku, well, I guess it would be better if I walked you home, NEJIRE-san. NEJIRE, do you want to go on a date with me now? Izuku blushed at those words saying, what the FF? NEJIRE, blushing a little, would say, don't misunderstand, a date as friends, I don't want to go home, not yet. I had a great time with you and the boys today, but I want to spend more time with you. We're friends, right? It's normal that he wants to know and learn a little more about you. NEJIRE looked tenderly into Izuku's eyes. Izuku, somewhat embarrassed, looked away saying, where are we going now, NEJIRE-san? Those words brought a beautiful smile to the light blue-haired girl's face. NEJIRE, I heard there's a new amusement park on the other side of town. We can take the train and travel there. What do you say? Izuku, whatever makes you happy will be fine with me. Those words made the light blue-haired girl's heart race. Feeling a warmth adorn her cheeks, and the emotions she felt before were now stronger than before. NEJIRE, Then let's go, she said somewhat nervously. The couple headed towards the train station, which left them 2 blocks from the amusement park. Upon arriving at the amusement park, NEJIRE was very excited, as she looked like a child just as Mirio had said before. Without thinking, NEJIRE took Izuku's hand and dragged him inside. Izuku couldn't help but blush at the light blue-haired girl's action. They went from attraction to attraction, they got on the roller coaster, and other attractions. Afterwards they walked around the place, eating cotton candy. The freckled boy had bought one since it was the last one he had left, and the 2 of them began to eat from that one while they walked. Afterwards they sat down to eat ice cream. The lady who sold them the ice cream said something that made the couple blush. "Lady, wow, you 2 really make a cute couple. I've seen you since you got here. There's definitely love between you 2. She gave them a special couple's ice cream as a gift. Izuku and NEJIRE, somewhat embarrassed by those words, thanked her for the ice cream. They both sat on a bench to eat together. NEJIRE, while eating the ice cream, said, "Thank you?" Izuku, "Hey, what did you say, senpai?" NEJIRE, "Thank you for this quote." Izuku, "I should thank you, senpai. If it weren't for you I couldn't have become friends with Mirio and Tamaki senpai. You are my first friend and without a doubt I am very happy to have met you." He gave him a warm smile. Seeing her, NEJIRE could only feel how those emotions increased within her. NEJIRE, "What flavor is your ice cream?" Izuku, "It's mint and chocolate." NEJIRE, "Huh, really? I've never tried mint ice cream." Izuku, "Do you want some of mine?" he asked while carrying some ice cream with the spoon. NEJIRE, "Yes, if I want." Izuku, "Say senpai." NEJIRE, somewhat blushing, opened her mouth as she said, "Oh." Izuku placed the spoon in her mouth. NEJIRE tasted the ice cream, saying, "That's lovely." Izuku, "Really, yes." The freckled man brought the spoon to his mouth. NEJIRE, after seeing what had happened, realized that it had been an indirect kiss. Just thinking about that made him blush. Izuku, "Senpai, are you okay?" NEJIRE, "If nothing happens." "Do you want to try mine?" asked. Izuku, "I would like to." NEJIRE, "Say Izuku." The freckled boy did as requested. NEJIRE brought the spoon to Izuku's mouth. Izuku, "It's delicious, senpai." NEJIRE just smiled as she realized that Izuku didn't know that they had indirectly kissed. After that they continued walking around the place. In one attraction there was a teddy bear with a heart in its arms. NEJIRE was excited to see it, so much so that she went to play to win it. The game consisted of throwing a ball and hitting the target, which moved in circles. They gave you 3 chances. The light blue-haired girl lost in all 3 because she didn't have good aim. When he didn't win, he became a little depressed, saying, "I guess it will be another time." Izuku paid to play now. He concentrated well and threw the ball, hitting the target, winning the teddy bear, which was a medium size. To be exact, the bear reached a little above NEJIRE's waist. Izuku gave the stuffed animal to the light blue-haired girl, who blushed slightly. Izuku, "Here, senpai, I'll give it to you." When NEJIRE grabbed the bear, her hands touched Izuku's. Both looked at each other for a slight moment. A little girl who was next to the couple was playing the same game to win a prize panda bear, which was the same size as NEJIRE's bear. The little girl lost and began to cry because she could not take the stuffed animal. Her mother consoled her by saying that she will be lucky another time. After saying that, he took the little girl's hand and they started walking. Seeing that, Izuku played again, winning the panda bear. NEJIRE saw this. Izuku, "Wait for me here, senpai." Izuku went after the little girl, and when he caught up with her, he gave her the stuffed animal. When the little girl saw the teddy bear, she hugged him, saying, "Thank you." The little girl's mother thanked Izuku for the gesture. The little girl gave the freckled boy a big hug. Izuku was happy to see the girl happy. After that they walked away. NEJIRE arrived with Izuku, and with a tender look she said, "That was very nice of you, Izuku." Izuku, "Thanks, I just don't like seeing a sad girl. That's why when you got sad for losing, I won the stuffed animal for you." "I didn't want and I don't want to see you sad, senpai. I like to see you with that cute smile you have. NEJIRE, holding the stuffed animal in her hands, left it on the ground for a second and hugged the freckled boy. Izuku blushed at the hug. NEJIRE was blushing but still continued to hug him. As they parted, he said, "This is my way of thanking you for what you did for me. Come on, let's go home," he said as he picked up the bear in his arms again and hugged it very tenderly. After half an hour, the freckled man would have accompanied the light blue-haired girl to her house. Izuku, well, senpai, thanks for today, I had a lot of fun with you. NEJIRE approached him and gave him a tender kiss on his cheek, saying, "Thanks to you, Izuku, you really made me very happy today. Izuku, I hope to have another date with you, senpai, see you." After saying that, the freckled man walked away. NEJIRE was left with a slight blush on her cheeks. She brought the teddy bear to her face, covering her face, and in a low voice said, "I hope our next date is soon, Izuku." Chapter 11. After saying those words, the light blue-haired girl entered her house with a big smile on her face. Her mother, upon seeing her, bothered her with several questions that made the light blue-haired girl blush. NEJIRE told her mother about the date she had with Izuku. Her mother, upon hearing the word friend, just let out a small laugh, saying, "So a date with a friend, huh? From that teddy bear he gave you and from how happy you look, I don't think you just consider him a friend, right? Am I wrong, daughter?" NEJIRE blushed, saying, "Izuku is a friend of Mom." After a while, she went to her room and lay down on her bed, tightly hugging the bear that Izuku had given her. She just started to remember how happy she was during that date with Izuku, how the words he said to her awakened various emotions in her. But remembering about the indirect kiss, she blushed even more, but then she just let out a little laugh, saying, "You are so cute, Izuku." On the other hand, when Izuku got home, he went to take a shower. While the water fell down his body, he could only think about NEJIRE, and how much fun he had with her. After taking a shower, he tied a little and went to sleep, because tomorrow he would have to get up early as usual. The next day he got up, did his daily routine and summarized his course towards the UA. As he was walking to the train station, he heard a beautiful but warm voice calling his name. He turned around to see NEJIRE, who approached him and gave him a warm kiss on the cheek, saying, "Good morning, Izuku." Izuku blushed a little at the light blue-haired girl's action. Somewhat nervous, he said, "Good morning, NEJIRE-san." NEJIRE, seeing Izuku blush, just laughed a little, and in her thoughts she would say, "He looks so cute when he blushes." NEJIRE, "Izuku, can we walk to the academy together? I know it's faster to take the train, but don't you think it's a beautiful day for a walk?" Izuku, "Hey, you're right, senpai, then let's walk. This way we can spend more time together." NEJIRE blushed at those words, because again they were poorly expressed. Izuku also noticed and somewhat nervously replied, "I didn't mean it like that, senpai. I said that this way I'll be able to get to know her a little better. You said it, right? We are friends, so it is normal that I want to know more about you. I would like to know what makes her happy, what she likes, and things like that." NEJIRE just gave a smile, saying, "Well, while we walk you can ask me and I will answer you." So the couple began to walk while they asked each other questions, to get to know each other better. Without realizing it, they were both walking side by side, and as they learned more about each other, they realized how much they had in common. The couple didn't notice that Mirio and Tamaki were coming behind them. Tamaki just looked at the two with a slight smile. Mirio, "Wow, I've never seen NEJIRE so happy. Without a doubt she looks happier since she met Izuku. What do you say, Tamaki?" Tamaki, "I think the same as you, Mirio." Mirio, "Well, it would be better if we let them continue alone. We don't want to interrupt your moment." In this way, NEJIRE and Izuku had arrived at the academy without realizing it, since they had lost track of time while they were talking. NEJIRE, "Well, I guess we have to part ways here." Izuku, "Well, we'll see each other at lunch, senpai." He gave her a warm smile. NEJIRE just looked at Izuku for a brief second. Izuku noticed this and asked, "Senpai, is something wrong?" NEJIRE realized that she had been staring at him. She blushed slightly and turned around. Standing behind Izuku, she said, "See you at lunch, Izuku." After saying that, she ran down the halls. Izuku, how cute. He started walking, and along the way he came across Tokoemi and Momo. They gathered together and began to walk with him. Meanwhile, NEJIRE, upon arriving at her class, sat down in her place and rested her head against the surface of her table. She was somewhat flushed, and in her thoughts she would say, "Why did I keep looking at him? What will he think of me now? Why do I get so nervous around him? And what are these emotions that I started feeling since I met him? But I want to continue feeling these emotions that only you provoke, Izuku," she said with a slight blush, while her heart raced slightly. Since that day, a week had passed with relative normality. Things for Izuku had changed a little. Now his classmates talked to him more. It is a long journey with Momo, Tokoemi, Mina, Kaminari, and Uraka. At lunchtime he was always with the big three. His performance in the hero practices was very good. Aizawa undoubtedly knew that Izuku had great potential. Every day when leaving the academy, Izuku, along with Mirio, Tamaki, and NEJIRE, went out to eat, or else they went to karaoke, among other places. Izuku had become great friends with Tamaki and Mirio. The situation with NEJIRE was that of best friends. They had a closeness that seemed to say otherwise. It wasn't long before a rumor began to spread that Izuku and NEJIRE were in a relationship. The rumor was false, but it still left doubts about the closeness these two had. One Friday afternoon, Izuku, Mirio, and Tamaki waited outside the academy for NEJIRE to go out to eat. The day was cloudy, as rain had been forecast. "Mirio, why is it taking so long? If we don't hurry up, we'll be late." Tamaki, "She probably stayed to do something around there, you know how she is." Izuku, "I'll go get her, Mirio-senpai." Mirio, "Okay, we'll wait for you here, Izuku." The freckled boy walked back into the halls of the academy. Izuku, "How strange, I thought she would be in her classroom. Maybe she went to the bathrooms. I'll go look for her there." The freckled boy headed towards the women's bathrooms. Being just a step away from the women's bathrooms, he heard NEJIRE's voice. Izuku was happy when he heard her voice. He was about to take another step but stopped when he heard other voices and a question that sparked his curiosity to know the answer the light blue-haired girl would give. Chapter 12. In the women's bathroom was the light blue-haired girl with some classmates from her classroom. One of the girls said, "By the way, have you seen the green-haired boy from Class 1A? It's a little scary, but it's kind of cute." "You don't believe it?" He said this while glancing sideways at NEJIRE. At those words, NEJIRE for some reason felt a little annoyed. "Hey NEJIRE, is it true that you and that boy have a relationship?" "Well, that's the rumor that's been circulating around, although the way you're always so close to him leaves a lot of doubts about whether the rumor is false or not," he said with a mischievous look. "Tell me, are you dating that guy?" At those questions, the light blue-haired girl blushed slightly but hid it as best she could. She knew she couldn't escape from those questions, since now all her classmates were looking at her waiting for an answer. NEJIRE said without thinking, "Lisbeth, don't you think you're asking pointless questions? That boy is younger than me. How could I have something with him?" The girl now known as Lisbeth asked. "But NEJIRE, besides, my relationship with him is just friendship and nothing more. To tell the truth, it really bothers me that that rumor is circulating around the academy. Of course it's false. I could never be with someone younger than him. And you said it yourself, didn't you? He is scary, and seeing that he didn't have a friend, I simply felt sorry for him, and I spoke to him out of compassion and nothing more. You already know that I like to make friends with anyone. Also, as their senpais, we must help our kois no matter what their appearance is. Don't you think so?" Lisbeth, "Oh, I see, sorry for the questions. And if you're right." NEJIRE, "Well, now let's go," she said somewhat nervously because she didn't want to be asked any more questions. NEJIRE opened the door to leave, but her eyes widened when she saw Izuku in front of her. The girls standing next to NEJIRE didn't know what to say, because before their eyes was the person they were talking about. Izuku had tears streaming down his cheeks, his head lowered. "Sorry." These were the only words that came out of the freckled man's lips, as he had a lump of emotions in his throat. Izuku just turned around and left the place. NEJIRE just stood there paralyzed as her body still hadn't reacted to what had just happened. Outside the academy, Mirio and Tamaki watched as Izuku left without NEJIRE. Mirio, Izuku, did you find NEJIRE? Izuku, I'm sorry senpai, I won't be able to accompany you today. The freckled man kept his head down. Tamaki, Izuku, are you okay? Silence was his answer. Izuku, I'll go home, see you tomorrow. Mirio didn't want to ask any more questions, so he simply said, It's okay, Izuku. The freckled man just walked away from the spot as a light drizzle began to appear. Mirio and Tamaki just watched as the freckled boy disappeared into the distance. Tamaki, thank goodness it started drizzling. Mirio, you're right. That way no one will see the tears on your cheeks. Within seconds NEJIRE ran out to them asking about Izuku. The light blue-haired girl was a little agitated, and her eyes threatened to release some tears. Tamaki, I left. Mirio, what happened? You were taking too long and he came in to look for you, but when he came out he was no longer the same Izuku. NEJIRE just ran out to see if she could catch Izuku, but luckily she didn't catch him. She was standing in the middle of the street as the rain became more and more intense. NEJIRE just knelt on the ground and with tears in her eyes said, Forgive me Izuku, I didn't mean that. Mirio and Tamaki caught up with her seconds later as they had run after her. NEJIRE was still in the same place crying. Mirio extended his hand to help her up. NEJIRE, I'm sorry guys, I just want to go home, she said with a broken voice. Mirio, okay, but at least let us go with you. We don't have an umbrella so all three of us will get wet. NEJIRE, thank you. The sadness was noticeable in the blue-haired girl's pupils. After a few minutes they arrived at the blue-haired girl's house. NEJIRE, thanks for joining me guys. Sorry for everything. Mirio, there's no way to avoid this. When you feel better we can talk, yes, and about what happened with Izuku, whatever it is I know you can talk to him tomorrow. NEJIRE, I hope so, I'm sure he won't even want to see me. Tamaki, go inside your house, you might catch a cold. NEJIRE said goodbye to both of them and entered her house. Mirio and Tamaki just looked at each other somewhat worried, since it was the first time they saw NEJIRE like that. Upon entering her house, the light blue-haired girl went straight to her room. Upon entering, she leaned against the door and sat on the floor, bringing her knees to her chest as she cried. I'm a fool, I shouldn't have said that. Sorry. Forgive me Izuku. The words Izuku had said were hurting her. Sorry. That simple word caused a sharp pain in his chest. On the other hand, Izuku was sitting on a swing in a small square. That was the place he always went to visit. The rain was getting stronger, but Izuku only had his head. Only NEJIRE's words kept going through his head over and over again. He said in a low voice, Sorry for making you feel sorry for me. You can take these feelings, tell me yes. A black aura enveloped the freckled man. For a second a pair of black wings came out of his body, but they vanished within seconds. A new day had arrived. We can see a light blue girl sitting against the headboard of her bed. NEJIRE had cried almost all night thinking about how she had hurt Izuku. Well, that green-haired boy thousands had made her feel of emotions in just a few days. She loved him very much and had great affection for him. For that very reason guilt struck her deep in her heart. She looked at the time on her phone, seeing that there was an hour left until she went to the academy. The light blue-haired girl got up and went to take a bath. Her spirits were not the same as usual. After having bathed and putting on her uniform, she went down to have breakfast. His mother noticed this and asked if he was okay. NEJIRE just nodded her head, trying to hide the sadness she had in her chest. Her mother, somewhat hesitant about her daughter's response, decided not to ask any more questions, because if her daughter wanted to tell her, she would do so. She was not going to force her to tell her if she did not want to. Once she finished breakfast, the light blue-haired girl left for the UA, because she knew that on the way she would meet Izuku, since she wanted to see him and apologize for what she had said to him. But she only ran into Mirio and Tamaki, who upon seeing her didn't ask her anything because it was easy to see their mood in their eyes. They were a block away from reaching UA and didn't see Izuku anywhere, which worried Mirio. NEJIRE had a sad look, then she saw Momo Yaoyorozu getting out of a limousine accompanied by a certain green-haired man. Chapter 13. Mirio, oh, there's Izuku. Izuku, thanks for bringing me Yaoyorozu. If it weren't for you I would be late. Momo, you're welcome Izuku, no need to be so formal with me. After all, if you want, you can just call me Momo. The black-haired girl gave him a warm smile. Izuku didn't show any kind of emotion, he just said, "It's okay Momo-san." Momo, are you okay? It's just that today you look different, it's like you're another person. Izuku, I'm fine, don't worry, we better go or we'll be late. Momo, you're right. The dark-haired girl and the freckled man began to walk deeper into the academy. NEJIRE only felt her chest tighten in great pain at the sight of Izuku. Mirio touched his shoulder saying, "We'd better go in too, NEJIRE. You can talk to him at lunchtime. After all, he always has lunch with us." NEJIRE just nodded her head, and the big three started walking again. During class time NEJIRE was lost in her thoughts and memories of yesterday. The image of Izuku and his words passed over and over again through the blue-haired girl's mind. She was brought out of her thoughts when she noticed her teacher was talking to her. "Midnight, NEJIRE, are you okay?" NEJIRE, yes sensei, I'm sorry." "Midnight, are you sure? Why are you crying?" "Boy, huh?" She brought her hands to her cheeks, realizing that she had tears falling from her eyes. NEJIRE wiped away her tears saying, "I'm sorry, I'm fine, don't worry sensei." "Midnight, are you sure? If you feel bad just tell me yes." NEJIRE just nodded her head. Midnight just turned around, summarizing her duty as a teacher. Tamaki and Mirio just looked at their friend. They were undoubtedly worried about her. They didn't want to see her like that. They wanted to see the NEJIRE who always smiled, the one who always showed her curiosity with her questions. During the short break her classmates approached her. They were precisely all the ones who were in the bathroom yesterday. "Lisbeth, is everything okay between you and that NEJIRE boy? You don't look very well today. Why were you crying just now?" NEJIRE didn't answer anything. Her companions looked at each other knowing that their friend was not well. The hours at the academy had passed relatively normally. Class 1A had not had to do any practice that day, so it was a normal day, somewhat relaxed so to speak. Lunchtime had arrived. The big three were in the cafeteria. Looking for Izuku with their eyes, they saw how within seconds the boys from Class 1A entered the dining room. "Mirio, his companions are there, but I don't see Izuku anywhere." NEJIRE searched for Izuku with her gaze, hoping that her eyes and his would meet in a glance. But no matter how much she looked everywhere, she didn't see him. "Mirio, how strange, he is nowhere to be found." NEJIRE got up from her place and went to ask one of her companions, exactly a brunette. "NEJIRE, excuse me, do you happen to know where Izuku is?" "Momo, huh? Izuku-kun, well, I asked him if he wanted to come have lunch with us, but he said he wasn't hungry, so he stayed in the classroom." NEJIRE, I see, thank you very much. The light blue-haired girl turned around to go find Izuku, but a question stopped her dead. "Momo, Miss NEJIRE, since you and Izuku are close friends, do you happen to know what happened to him?" NEJIRE, what do you mean? Momo, well, you see. This morning when I was coming in my limo to the academy, I ran into Izuku and brought him here. But when I looked into his eyes they were cold, it was as if they had no life. It's not the same Izuku we tested with, it's like he's a different person. That's why I thought maybe you would know the reason why it is like this. NEJIRE didn't say anything, she just kept her head down. I'll bring it back. After saying that, the light blue-haired girl left the cafeteria heading to the classroom of Class 1A. The closer he got, his chest began to hurt, because he didn't know how to look at Izuku in his eyes and apologize. But she just wanted to see him alone with her. To tell the truth, she didn't want to lose Izuku's friendship. I didn't want to stop feeling those feelings that only he caused. Upon reaching the living room, she stopped in front of the large door and took a deep breath. And he opened the door saying, "Izuku, can we talk?" She saw that there was no one in the room, so she just lowered her gaze, more depressed than before. On the other hand, Tamaki and Mirio were climbing the stairs which led to the rooftop. "Mirio, Tamaki, why are we going to the rooftop?" Tamaki didn't say anything to his friend's question. Standing in front of the door leading to the rooftop, Tamaki replied, "Before, when I wanted to be away from people and not talk to anyone, I would come to this place. And I know he's here." Upon opening the door, they saw a green-haired man sitting in the middle of the roof with his gaze fixed on the sky. Tamaki and Mirio sat next to him. Tamaki extended his hand, giving him a soda. Izuku took it, saying, "Thank you." Tamaki, "You're welcome." Mirio, "Wow, the sky certainly looks really beautiful from the rooftop, don't you think so?" Tamaki, "You're right." Izuku, "It must be more beautiful at night." Mirio, "Oh, you're right." For a couple of minutes they just stared at the sky without saying a single word. Tamaki, "Do you want to go out for a bite to eat? After school, just the three of us." Mirio, "It's a good idea. A boys-only party, we can go out for a drink," he said with a big smile. Tamaki, "Mirio, who is younger, cannot drink." Mirio, "Oops, I forgot." "Forget about drinking." Izuku barely managed to give a slight but noticeable smile. "You know, they never tried to cheer me up, you guys are the first." "Thanks, Mirio and Tamaki-senpai." Mirio was about to speak when the bell range indicated that lunchtime was over. Izuku got up from the spot and headed towards the door to leave the place, but stopped abruptly, saying, "Regarding his proposal, Tamaki-senpai accepted, but with one condition." Tamaki, "What is that condition?" Izuku, "We pay half and half." Tamaki just gave a slight smile, saying, "Deal." Izuku, "Well then I'll wait for you outside the academy." After saying that, the freckled boy left the rooftop, leaving Mirio and Tamaki alone. After a few seconds they went to their classroom. When they arrived they saw a light blue girl who was lying on her desk. Tamaki, "What happened? Were you able to find it?" NEJIRE, "No. I looked for it but couldn't find it. I knew he hates me. I know he doesn't want to see me. I don't blame him, this was all my fault." In this way the end of classes had come to an end. Before Class 1A left the classroom, Isawa said, "Classes, I have something important to say. Tomorrow we will go on a trip. I won't tell you where since it is a surprise. But bring warm clothes because there will be snow where we are going." After saying that, Class 1A screamed with excitement. "Isawa, we will leave tomorrow at 8 o'clock. His parents have already been notified about this trip, so don't worry. By the way, the big three will be accompanying us on this trip. Well, now we'll see each other in class." After saying that, he got into a sleeping bag. Chapter 14. The entire Class 1A screamed with excitement for the trip, all except a certain green-haired boy. Momo had noticed this, as Izuku had stopped smiling from one day to the next. The boys packed up their things and began to leave the class in an orderly fashion. The green-haired man and a certain dark-haired girl were the last to leave. Momo approached Izuku and asked, "Izuku-kun, do you want me to take you home in my limo?" Izuku, "And no thank you very much, Momo, I'll go out with Mirio and Tamaki-senpai somewhere." Momo, I see you get along very well with the big three, especially Miss NEJIRE." Hearing that name, the green-haired man just stayed silent for a minute. Momo noticed this and asked, "Is something wrong? Did I say something that upsets you, Izuku-kun?" Izuku, "No. It's nothing, Momo. Yes, I get along very well with the big three. Well, Mirio and Tamaki-senpai are very good to me." Momo, "Yes, I know, you are always with them, especially with NEJIRE-senpai." Izuku, "Let's go, Momo-san." Momo, "Oh yeah, it's okay." Both young men began to walk through the halls of the academy. Outside the academy was Mirio waiting for Izuku. NEJIRE, who was leaving the academy, saw her friend outside of it. She approached them and asked, "What are you still doing here, Mirio?" We weren't going out today, right? Mirio, well, I'm waiting for Tamaki. NEJIRE, ah, I see. I think he went to drop off some papers at the office. He should be leaving soon. Mirio, oh, I see. You still haven't been able to talk to him, right? NEJIRE with a sad voice would say. No, I couldn't see him all day. The light blue-haired girl was starting to shed some tears. Mirio, seeing his friend's condition, hugged her to calm her down a bit. Mirio, tomorrow during the trip you will have the opportunity to talk to him. Whatever happened between you two, I know you can solve it. Since they met, they were almost inseparable. Since he came into your life, you smiled more than usual, and you couldn't stop talking about him or thinking about him, or am I wrong? NEJIRE wiped away her tears and with a slight smile said, You're right, I always ended up thinking about him. Mirio, I knew it. Don't worry, I know that things between you will work out, and you will be able to go out with him. After saying that, the blonde winked at him and showed him a big smile. NEJIRE blushed a little at what her friend said, but could only say, And I want to go out with him and have several dates. Mirio, that's how it is said. You know that as your friend I will always support you. But don't say that thing again that you just said in front of Tamaki, or he will call the UN, he said, laughing. NEJIRE just laughed a little. Anyway, I'll go home to prepare my warm clothes for tomorrow. See you, Mirio. The light blue-haired girl said goodbye to her friend and left the place. A few seconds later, Mirio saw Tamaki leave accompanied by Izuku and a certain black-haired girl. The three of them were talking about various things. This surprised Mirio quite a bit since Tamaki didn't talk much with people except for them. Arriving with Mirio, Momo's limousine had arrived. The brunette said goodbye to those present and left, but not before giving Izuku a warm smile, saying, If you ever need to talk, you can count on me, Izuku. Izuku just looked at the brunette for a brief second. He gave a slight smile, saying, Thanks, Momo. Momo couldn't help but feel happy when she saw him, because little by little she was gaining his trust. She wanted to be his friend and know more about him. The limousine slowly moved away from the place. Mirio, and what are we waiting for? Let's go eat somewhere. The three friends began to walk through the streets, until they reached the food place they always went to. The owner of the place was a somewhat older person, but he had a very good heart. Seeing the young people, he smiled at them and said, Finally the boys arrived. I already missed their voices in the place. Mirio, we will always come to this place. Their food is the best in the whole city. Sir, come sit at your usual table and order your meals, boys. The three of them sat down and ordered what they were going to eat and some non-alcoholic drinks, of course. After a few minutes, the young people were eating and talking about various things until a question broke the atmosphere created. Mirio, Izuku, can I ask you something? Izuku, yes, tell me, what's wrong, Mirio-senpai? Mirio, well, you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, but what happened between you and NEJIRE? Since yesterday everything changed between you. She has been looking sad and has been crying. What happened? Tamaki just remained silent as Izuku did. They were like that for a few seconds. Tamaki, Izuku, you don't have to. Izuku, I'm not a good Tamaki-senpai. After all, you're doing this for me. I think it would be unfair not to tell you what happened. The freckled boy took a breath as he began to tell them what had happened, or rather what he had heard. After finishing telling them what happened, both Mirio and Tamaki fell silent. Izuku, can I ask you guys something? Mirio, yes, of course, Izuku. Izuku, did you also become my friends out of pity? Or was it because NEJIRE asked for it? If that is the case, then there is no reason for them to continue with all this. The freckled man's words were cold. Mirio, of course not. And I know NEJIRE doesn't either. Yes, she may have said that without thinking, but I know she is not like that. Tamaki, Mirio is right, sometimes she is a fool and says things without thinking. But if she noticed you, it wasn't out of pity, it was because she really wanted to be your friend. Since he met you, he started smiling more, and he hasn't stopped talking to us about you. You're a good boy, Izuku, and we're not your friends out of pity or anything like that. We are your friends because you are a very good person, Izuku. I used to be afraid of talking to people. Mirio, you're still scared, Tamaki. Tamaki, that's not the point, Mirio. I didn't have any friends before like you. But one day 2 people approached me and started talking to me. They offered me their friendship. At first I thought they did it out of pity, since the rest of my classmates made fun of me. But I was wrong. They were by my side not out of pity, but because they truly considered me their friend. Since that day, those 2 people have not left my side. They became my best friends. We went through difficult times, but we overcame them together. I think you already know who I'm talking about, right? Izuku, Mirio, and NEJIRE-senpai. Tamaki, exactly. So don't think that we are by your side out of pity. We are by your side because you are truly our friend, and a friend is never left alone. Mirio, so you know, Izuku, don't think that way again. We are your friends after all. Izuku clearly heard both of their words, and a voice in his head told him. They spoke to you with pure sincerity. You can trust them. Izuku, I see. Tamaki, so? Izuku, no need to say it. I'll try to fix things with NEJIRE-senpai. Mirio, I'm not asking you to be the one to fix things. After all, it was NEJIRE's fault for not thinking her words through. So at least listen to her. After all, you and she make a cute couple, don't you think? Tamaki, Mirio is right. You and her are made for each other. NEJIRE is really happy when she's by your side, and you can't hide your blush when you talk to her, nor hide your nervousness. Izuku didn't say anything because they were telling him the truth. After that, they continued eating and talking about other things. After a while, they paid the bill and left the place. Then they said goodbye and each went to their homes. Well, they had to prepare their things for tomorrow's trip. Chapter 15, Confession and Question. The next day it was 7:55 in the morning, and you could see the entire Class 1A gathered together loading their suitcases into a van that was waiting for them. The big 3 were already there. Mirio, calm down, NEJIRE, he must be arriving soon. Tamaki, maybe I fell asleep, that happens to me sometimes. NEJIRE, and what will I do if he doesn't eat? I really want to see it. Aisawa, did something happen to him? She is also missing. At that he saw how a limousine arrived at the place where Momo and Izuku got out. Aisawa, until they finally arrive. Both young people were together very close to each other. They apologized for the delay. NEJIRE, seeing Izuku with Momo, began to feel a slight pain in her chest, and a feeling of annoyance. Mirio noticed this and laughed lightly. Izuku loaded his and Momo's luggage and they got into the van. The last to get on were the big 3. NEJIRE wanted to sit next to Izuku, but someone else had taken that spot. Momo was sitting next to the freckled boy while letting out a small laugh. NEJIRE couldn't help but feel bad because she knew that if she hadn't said those words, she could be sitting with Izuku. During the course of the trip, Izuku never looked at NEJIRE. He only spent his time talking to the brunette. The destination was the airport. NEJIRE hoped to be able to sit next to the green-haired man on the plane. But unfortunately for him, that black-haired girl had won his place again. The trip would be about 7 hours by plane. All the lights on the plane were off. Some of the kids decided to get some sleep. The brunette had fallen asleep with her head resting on the green-haired man's shoulder. He just looked at her for a few seconds, noticing how the brunette was resting peacefully on him. He moved his right arm so that she could rest a little more on it and be more comfortable. Izuku with his right arm hugged her delicately. NEJIRE had seen that the pain in her chest had grown more and more. For a brief second her gaze met Izuku's, but when she looked into his eyes she saw that it wasn't the same glow with which he looked at her before. His eyes were cold, as if his emotions were consumed by something. NEJIRE just grabbed her chest. Izuku just looked out the plane window and for a few seconds he could see his reflection in the window. He clearly saw how half of his face was that of his demon and the other half was him. Izuku just smiled slightly while in his head his demon told him, "Don't worry, I will always be with you. You and I are one being. Remember, Izuku, you must not let him take control of your body, otherwise I will not be able to stop him." It's funny, isn't it? He was the one who first showed up when you protected your mother from your father's blows. Since then he hasn't woken up again. It's better this way. Do you really want me to continue consuming your emotions? Izuku. Take it now. I don't need them anymore. His demon just stayed silent for a few seconds. After that he just limited himself to answering. Alright. After saying that without anyone noticing for a fraction of a second, a darkness had consumed Izuku. After having done so, the freckled man's gaze was lifeless, dull and cold. In this way the hours had passed, and Izuku had taken care of the brunette at all times. Upon reaching his destination, Izuku gently began to shake Momo to wake her up. The brunette began to slowly open her eyes, meeting Izuku's lifeless eyes. Izuku, we're here. Momo realized that she was on top of Izuku, and with a slight blush she separated from him while saying, sorry for falling asleep on you. Izuku, it's okay. Come on, let's get off the plane. The brunette nodded sadly. All the young men were getting off the plane with their luggage. Izuku was carrying Momo's, even though the brunette had told him that she was going to carry it. Izuku didn't let her carry the suitcases. Momo noticed how even though his eyes were cold, he was still kind, at least to her. When they got off the plane they felt the cold because it was snowing outside. Mina and the other girls were excited. Isawa, well, in a few minutes a bus will arrive which will take us to the hotel where we are going to stay. For now, take a breath and stretch your legs. Momo was still next to Izuku, something that didn't go unnoticed by the rest of the girls, who looked at Momo with an amused smile. Tamaki and Mirio approached Izuku and Momo. Mirio, wow, this place is nice, don't you think, Izuku? Izuku, yes, it's cute, I guess. Mirio noticed how the words were muffled. Tamaki greeted Momo and the freckled boy. The brunette greeted the two people present with a warm smile. Mirio glanced at NEJIRE, gesturing for her to join them. The light blue-haired girl approached them, and with a somewhat sad voice greeted Momo and Izuku. Izuku, Miss Hato, how are you? Mirio and the others were shocked to notice the indifference of his words. NEJIRE, hearing how he called her, became sadder and with a greater effort to avoid shedding tears said, Would you believe me if I told you I'm fine? Mirio and the others understood that they needed to talk alone, so they moved away from them so they could talk. Izuku, believing in you, Miss Hato, is something I couldn't do, at least not twice. NEJIRE, her voice breaking and tears falling from her eyes, said, I'm sorry. Forgive me for having said all those things. While Izuku, it's my fault. Forgive me for having made you feel sorry. After saying that, the freckled boy passed by the light blue-haired girl, but NEJIRE stopped him by grabbing his hand while saying, Not anymore. Don't leave me anymore, I need you with me. The light blue-haired girl shouted the last thing, making the whole class turn to look at them. Mina, Kaya. Is this a confession from NEJIRE-senpai? She said very excitedly. Izuku with his lifeless eyes looked at the blue-haired girl. NEJIRE, please don't leave my side anymore. Forgive me for all the hurt I did to you, but no more. I can't stand being without you anymore. I want everything to be the same as before. I want us to eat together. I want to spend more time with you. I want to have endless dates just with you, Izuku. Please, I want you to continue causing me all the emotions that you made me feel when you were by my side, when you looked at me. The light blue-haired girl approached Izuku, intertwining her fingers with his. Everyone watched this in amazement, thinking only one thing. Mirio had a big smile. Tamaki was recording everything with his cell phone while saying, I already have enough evidence. With this the UN will be able to act without problems. The girls were blushing as they were waiting for a kiss to happen from the two of them. Momo just looked at the situation somewhat seriously. NEJIRE was very close to Izuku while she quietly said to him, I want you only for myself. Izuku, do you know what my quirk feeds on? NEJIRE, no. Izuku, of emotions. At those words everything fell silent. Momo and the others understood Izuku's change. Izuku, the emotions I once felt for you are gone now. After saying that, he separated from the blue-haired girl and turned around just as the van that would take them to the hotel had arrived. Chapter 16. I can fulfill your wish in exchange for a favor. Do you accept? The whole place had fallen into complete silence. Mirio could only see his friend with his head down as tears fell from his eyes. Izuku said before starting to walk. I thought it would be different with you, but again everything goes back to the way it was. If people see me like a monster or are afraid of me without even knowing you, then there's no point in trying to be something I'm not if it won't ultimately change the way they see you. Although I thank you for making me feel those feelings even if it was for a short period of time, I appreciate it. The green-haired man began to walk until he reached a certain dark-haired girl who approached him and asked if he was okay. Izuku only answered yes, and after that he and the brunette got into the van. Aisawa, well, come on up everyone so we can get a room right away. The whole class agreed and began to climb. Mineta and Kaminari were bursting with rage when they saw how Izuku rejected a girl as beautiful as NEJIRE. Mirio and Tamaki approached NEJIRE to comfort her because they knew she was sick. NEJIRE, I lost it. Sniff sniff. I lost it, Mirio, I lost Izuku. NEJIRE's voice cracked with every word she said. Tamaki, hey, please don't cry anymore. I'm sure that with time they can be back to how they were before. He also said that his quirk feeds on his emotions, but that doesn't mean he can have them again. So there is a small chance that you can bring back those emotions that he felt for you, and you don't want to know what kind of emotions he felt for you. It may be an emotion of friendship or perhaps more than that. NEJIRE, do you really think I can? They. Sniff sniff. I don't want him to go away from me. If I could go back in time and avoid saying those words, I swear I would do it, Tamaki. No matter what I had to do, I would give anything to go back in time and avoid saying that. Meanwhile, in another place, a person was watching a certain celestial girl and the rest of the class through a kind of portal. This one would say, so you would give anything just to bring him back, huh? This is certainly a perfect opportunity. Well, I guess it's time for me to get going. I think I've had enough sleep for these 100 years, although in my opinion it was a short nap. It's time to go see you, little brother. I can't wait to see how your reaction will be. Returning with Class 1, who were in the traffic almost arriving at the hotel where they were going to stay, Izuku was sitting next to Momo, who was happy since she wanted to get to know him a little more and be his friend. She wanted to gain his trust, not to mention that she liked him, no matter how others looked at him. He would fight for his dream of being a hero. That motivated the brunette. NEJIRE had been silent the entire moment. Her eyes had lost that sparkle that characterized her so much. Tamaki and Mirio felt bad for their friend, but there was nothing they could do since this was a problem between her and Izuku. Upon arriving at the hotel, the boys couldn't help but were amazed by how beautiful and elegant the inside was. Aisawa searched the boys and gathered them all together as he said, they will have to share rooms since there are 2 beds per room. Momo, hearing what her teacher had said, became nervous at the thought that she might be able to share a room with Izuku. At those words, Kaminari and Mineta became happy because it was the perfect opportunity to sleep with some of the girls, be it Mina, Momo, or NEJIRE. Aisawa, for reasons that all the girls already know, Kaminari and Mineta will share rooms together. At these words, the 2 men remained silent because of their misfortune, cursing fate. Aisawa, well, now I will name the rest. He began to name the couples who would share the rooms. The last couples are Todoroki and Bakugo, Uraraka and Yaoyorozu, and finally NEJIRE and Kamado. At those words, NEJIRE was a little happy because she could talk a little more with Izuku. Izuku showed no emotion. Mineta and Kaminari cursed the freckled boy's luck. Mirio leaned close to NEJIRE's ear and whispered, you will be alone with him tonight, is your chance to show him your true feelings. NEJIRE just blushed until she couldn't blush anymore. Aisawa, okay, now I'll give you the keys to your rooms so you can leave your things there, and well, you'll already know this, but enjoy your stay here. The entire class screamed with excitement except for Todoroki, Bakugo, and Izuku. NEJIRE approached Izuku and said, let's go to our room, Aizu. Izuku, Kamado. Boy, huh? Izuku, call me Kamado, Miss Hato. NEJIRE felt a sharp pang in her chest and with a fake smile said, It's okay, Kamadu. Izuku handed the keys to the light blue-haired girl and left with Momo helping her with her things. Momo thanked him for his help, and the dark-haired Uraraka and the freckled man walked away talking. NEJIRE just lowered her head as she quietly said, "You don't know how much this distance hurts me." The light blue-haired girl went to the room she was assigned to. When she entered, she left her things on the bed and sat down to remember Izuku's words. "Izuku, the emotions I once felt for you are gone now. NEJIRE, forgive me." At that point I heard a voice that said, "Don't cry anymore." NEJIRE quickly stood up, seeing that there was no one else in the room. In that she could see how a black shadow began to form over the bed in which Izuku was going to sleep. The shadow itself had no specific form. NEJIRE felt fear run through every part of her body. She took a step back when she saw red eyes appear from the shadow, as if that thing had her eyes closed the whole time. The shadow began to walk back and forth across the room while watching NEJIRE standing still, unable to move. The shadow just let out a small mocking laugh, saying, "What happened? Did the cat get your tongue?" NEJIRE felt like the voice was demonic. "Shadow, well, I heard your wish that you would do anything to turn back time and avoid hurting your partner's feelings. And that's why I'm here to help you with your wish. Tell me, if I go back in time so you can fix your mistake, what would you give me in return? I can easily fulfill that wish, and I can fulfill it for you in exchange for you doing me a small favor, that's all. Tell me, are you not interested in my proposal?" The shadow showed a big smile, tilting his head to his side. NEJIRE I. Chapter 17, We Have a Deal. Shadow, if you think about it, I'm being very generous with you. In exchange for turning back time, I'm only asking you for a simple favor, that's all. Look, the wish you ask of me will consume a large part of my power. I will not ask you for anything that you cannot get or give me. NEJIRE was hesitant whether to accept or not. Shadow, you heard what he said. It's not like that. His quirk feeds on his emotions, tell me. Don't you want to know what kind of emotions he felt for you? Who knows, maybe they were feelings of great friendship, or maybe more than that. But that's something you'll never know, since those emotions are no longer in their body, and I highly doubt you'll be able to bring them back. The only option you have is to go back in time to that day and save your relationship as friends. Tell me you don't want everything to be the same as before. Don't you want him to smile at you again and be the same Izuku you knew? Do you prefer the cold, emotionless boy he is now? And well, all this is your fault, and you know it better than anyone. I am offering you a unique opportunity to fix your mistake. It is up to you whether to accept it or not. NEJIRE I. What favor would I have to do for you? In exchange for desire? The shadow just showed a smile, saying, Or it's nothing special, I just want you to allow me to rest and recover my energy, that's all. What happens is that I want to get my brother back, and to do that I need to be completely recovered, otherwise I won't be able to see my brother. NEJIRE, do you want a place to stay? Is that what you mean? Shadow, yes, exactly, that's the only thing I want in return. It's nothing and not much that I'm asking of you. NEJIRE, I guess it would be nice if I accepted your request. That shadow showed a big smile, saying, Perfect, I knew you would accept. Then let's close the deal. He would shake his hand towards NEJIRE, who for a second breathed and calmed down, and then grabbed the hand of that shadow. NEJIRE, so, how will all this work? Shadow, when you go to sleep and fall deeply asleep, you will go back in time, no matter what time you fall asleep. When you open your eyes, you will wake up on the day you have chosen. You have to choose the day you want to return, and I'll take care of the rest, that's all. NEJIRE, okay, I understand. Shadow, to close our deal you have to repeat this word 3 times. Tinitsets. And that will be there. NEJIRE, okay, that sounds easy enough. Shadow, true, yes. NEJIRE, it's 3 times, okay, here I go. Itinits. Itinitses. Tinitsets. After saying those words, a red circle appeared below her. It had strange symbols written on it. It shone brightly. NEJIRE could see how a great darkness covered the entire room in a matter of seconds. All the other boys in the hotel felt a great pressure that completely paralyzed them and gave them goosebumps. Mirio, what is this pressure I'm feeling? And my body doesn't respond to me. Momo, who was arriving at her room with Uraraka accompanied by Izuku, the three of them felt that horrible feeling. Izuku put on a serious look. His demon in his head said, "This presence is... No. It just can't be. Let's go quickly, we have to go to where all this originates." Izuku, without wasting time, began to run towards where this pressure originated. Shadow, oh, I forgot to tell you that. Your body will be the one I rest on. He showed a big smile. Nejire, what was it that? She couldn't finish speaking as that shadow began to enter her body, crossing the center of her chest. Nejire couldn't move, she could only feel how that shadow was getting deeper and deeper into her body, letting out a cry of pain. This only lasted a few seconds. All the darkness in the room was absorbed by the light blue-haired girl's body. Nejire fell to the ground on her knees, breathing heavily, her eyes a deep black color. Black veins appeared on his body for just a second. But after that her body returned to normal. Izuku, who was running through the hallways, stopped when he felt that that presence had completely disappeared. Curse. It's already gone. Where could it have come from? And what was it that caused it? Everyone in the hotel stopped feeling that presence. Tokoemi, that presence was like Kamido's. No. This one was more powerful and stronger. Bakugo, feeling that sensation, broke out in a cold sweat and his legs didn't want to respond. After that moment everything went back to normal, so to speak. The boys were a little worried. Izuku, after being somewhat thoughtful, decided to go to the room he was assigned to. Upon entering, he saw Nejire, who was lying down sleeping while hugging the teddy bear he had given her. Seeing him, Izuku remembered the date they had that day. After that he left his things and left the room. Nejire heard the sounds from outside less and less, falling into a deep sleep. After a while she opened her eyes and realized that she was in her bedroom. Nejire, great, it was just a dream. She checked the time on her cell phone and her eyes widened when she saw that the day she was in was precisely the day that everything had begun. It was the day she lost Izuku. Nejire couldn't believe it, and could only say, "It wasn't a dream, I really went back in time." This one had all the memories of the pact. The light blue-haired girl washed her face, put on her uniform, had breakfast, and headed off to the academy with a beautiful smile. In the distance she saw a head of green hair, and when she saw it, thousands of emotions invaded her. Without thinking she shouted, "Izuku!" The green-haired boy turned around and found himself facing the blue-haired boy. Nejire couldn't help but shed a few tears when she saw Izuku smile at her and say, "Good morning, Nejire-senpai." She couldn't help but throw herself into his arms, hugging him tenderly. Izuku blushed at that action, so he asked, "Are you okay, senpai?" Nejire, without letting go, said, "It's just that I'm happy." This in his thoughts would say, "This time I won't hurt you, I'll tell you my feelings, Izuku. I won't lose you again, this time I won't let you go." Chapter 18. The Izuku demon reacts against Nejire. Izuku just gave a slight smile and reciprocated Nejire's hug. The light blue-haired girl felt the freckled boy's warm hands on her back. She could only smile tenderly as she hugged him. They were like that for a couple of seconds, then they separated and began to walk together to the academy. As they were walking, the light blue-haired girl was remembering everything that had happened, glancing at Izuku and blushing because she was undoubtedly happy to see that Izuku smiling. Nejire, with her left hand, slowly approached Izuku's right hand as they both walked. The very blushing light blue-haired girl intertwined her fingers with Izuku's in a tender handhold. Izuku was blushing a lot, and he just asked, "Senpai W, what are you doing?" Nejire somewhat shyly said, "Can we walk holding hands?" Izuku, seeing the expression she showed, couldn't help but blush. He looked to the side, saying, "If that makes her happy, then it's fine." They both tenderly held each other's hands and began to walk with a slight blush on their faces. NEJIRE had a beautiful smile on her face. On the way they ran into Mirio and Tamaki, who were surprised to see them holding hands. Mirio could only smile because he already saw something like that coming. Tamaki, on the other hand, took out his cell phone and dialed the UN. As usual, NEJIRE gave Tamaki a strong blow. Izuku and Mirio just laughed a little at the scene. The blonde asked both young people if they were in a relationship. Izuku blushed at the question and shyly replied, "No." Mirio, "Huh, then why were they holding hands?" NEJIRE, with a warm smile, replied, "What happens is that I promised myself that I would never separate from Izuku, besides." She blushed slightly and replied, "I would also like to be more than just her friend." At those words Izuku blushed a lot, because no girl had ever said something like that to him before, so it was the first time. This somewhat sad man said, "Don't make that kind of joke, senpai. I don't think a girl as pretty as you would want to have anything to do with someone like me. You deserve someone better." NEJIRE, "To tell the truth, I'm the one who doesn't deserve you." She began to remember all the harm she had done to Izuku, and the words he had said to her. "I'm sorry I made you feel sorry. The feelings I had for you are no longer there. Who could love a demon like me? You know what my quirk feeds on. Of my emotions." Without realizing it, NEJIRE was shedding tears which wet her cheeks. The three boys were worried when they saw her. NEJIRE, holding back the urge to cry, said, "You once said, 'No one could love a demon like you.' I want you to let me love you. I want to always be by your side. I want you to hug me. I want us to go out on many dates. I want to walk hand in hand with you. So please let me love you." Mirio was surprised because he didn't know that his friend would confess to the green-haired boy. Izuku had a few tears falling from his eyes at those words. He could only say, "If I'm enough for you, then please go out with me, NEJIRE-senpai." NEJIRE, with a beautiful smile and tears in her eyes, replied, "And? Yes, I want to go out with you." NEJIRE and Izuku began to approach each other, but before they could be together a darkness came out of Izuku's body, taking him away from NEJIRE. Izuku's hair turned black and his eyes turned crimson red. His demonic aura increased monstrously, putting great pressure on the environment. Mirio and Tamaki were surprised to see the freckled boy in that form. The light blue-haired girl felt the same fear that the shadow that fulfilled her wish caused her. It was that same sensation but lesser than that of the shadow. NEJIRE, "Izuku, why are you walking away from me?" Izuku, "I don't know, my body reacted alone, rather my quirk took control of my body." Izuku tried to get closer to NEJIRE, but the closer he got, her darkness stopped him taking control of Izuku. His demon told him in his head, "Don't get close to her, there's something strange about her. I only just noticed that detail when they held hands and I felt something inside, but I couldn't figure out what it was." Mirio, "Izuku, what's wrong?" Izuku didn't say anything. NEJIRE took a step towards Izuku, but she saw how that darkness went on the offensive against her. The light blue-haired girl stood still in the same place. Darkness returned to Izuku's body. His demon in his head told him, "That strange feeling that I noticed in her disappeared." Izuku's hair and eyes had returned to normal. Izuku was now able to approach NEJIRE and apologize for what happened. "And I hug her tenderly, calming her down." Without realizing it, inside NEJIRE, more exactly below where her heart was, there was a mass of darkness that was taking the shape of a heart. It was that demon that had entered Izuku's body. For a slight second a small wave of demonic energy passed through NEJIRE's body, causing Izuku's demon to react in that way. All this was to check whether it would manifest in its final form or not. Within that darkness a voice would say, "Just wait for me, little brother. Once I fully recover I will come for you. You will pay for betraying us. This little girl's body will certainly be of great use to me. I will make everyone see your true form. I will make that boy you chose as a user suffer like you can't imagine. Just wait for me." Chapter 19, Darkness. Izuku along with the big three began to walk to the academy. The freckled boy and the light blue-haired girl were holding hands. Mirio and Tamaki were happy for their friend. some in the academy couldn't help but watch as the green-haired boy walked hand in hand with the beautiful blue-haired girl. These had to be separated since they went to different classrooms. Before separating from Izuku, NEJIRE gave him a tender kiss on his cheek and left. She left with a big smile on her face. Izuku turned around to leave his classroom and saw Tokoyami looking at him with a slight smile. Izuku felt a little embarrassed because he knew that she had seen him holding hands with that blue-haired girl. Both young men began to walk to their classroom. When they arrived, they met all their classmates. Bakugo just looked at the green-haired boy with rivalry. Izuku sat in his usual spot. The boys who teamed up with him in the last test approached him and started talking to him. The freckled boy was happy because for the first time they were not afraid of him. He was happy that people approached him to talk to him. The one who showed the most confidence to talk to her was Momo. Then the classes continued as normal until the end of classes. The day was cloudy as rain had been forecast. Izuku along with Mirio and Tamaki were outside the academy waiting for NEJIRE, as they had agreed to go out together. Mirio, why is it taking so long? If we don't hurry up, we'll be late. Tamaki, she probably stayed to do something around there, you know how she is. Izuku, I'll go get her, Mirio-senpai. Mirio, okay, we'll wait for you here, Izuku. The freckled boy walked back into the halls of the academy. Izuku, how strange, I thought she would be in her classroom, maybe she went to the bathrooms, I'll go look for her there. The freckled boy headed towards the women's bathrooms. Being just a step away from the women's bathrooms, he heard NEJIRE's voice. Izuku was happy to hear her voice. He was about to take another step but stopped when he heard other voices and a question that sparked his curiosity to know what answer the light blue-haired girl would give. Inside the women's bathroom was NEJIRE and some of her companions. The questions were the same as those asked the first time, but this time NEJIRE knew that by answering this she wouldn't make the same mistake. Lisbeth, tell me. Are you dating that guy? NEJIRE just showed a beautiful smile saying, Yes, I am dating him. The truth is that I like him a lot, he is everything to me. I love him with all my heart. I don't care if he has an aura of fear or something, I just want to be with him because he's the guy I want to spend the rest of my life with. The girls were surprised by the light blue-haired girl's response, they just hugged her saying, What beautiful words, NEJIRE. It's clear that you love him very much. I think they make a nice couple, we support you. NEJIRE returned her companion's hug. Izuku, who had heard everything, was blushing deeply because he realized that NEJIRE loved him just the way he was. Izuku turned around and walked away from the place because he didn't want to interrupt the light blue-haired girl with her friends. As she separated from her friend's embrace, NEJIRE said, Well, I have to go. My friends are waiting for me to leave and I want to see Izuku now. The blue-haired girl was about to open the door but then she stopped dead. Her friends noticed this and asked her if something was wrong. After about 5 minutes, NEJIRE left the academy meeting up with her friends. Mirio, until you finally arrive, let's go eat. NEJIRE, sorry for the delay. The light blue-haired girl took Izuku by the arm and the 4 friends began to walk through the city towards their food place. After a long while the young people separated to leave, Izuku accompanied NEJIRE to her house. Both of them walked hand in hand. NEJIRE was certainly happy to be able to be like that with the freckled boy. Upon arriving at the light blue-haired girl's house they had to say goodbye. NEJIRE gave him a tender kiss very close to Izuku's lips, making the freckled boy blush. The light blue-haired girl loved seeing how cute Izuku looked when he blushed. She turned around and entered her house. Izuku resumed his walk towards his house. When he arrived, as usual, he received his father's photo. Afterwards he took a bath and changed his clothes, going to the cemetery to visit his father's grave. The freckled boy placed new roses on her grave and told her about his day with a big smile. 3 days passed with relative normality. Izuku and NEJIRE's relationship was progressing little. It is worth mentioning that the trip they were going to have been cancelled. In the direction of the director Nizu were gathered some teachers together with Recovery Girl. Nizu, well, you already know the reason for this meeting, right? Those present nodded their heads. Nizu, well, as you already know, 3 days ago Professor Midnight found 6 young girls unconscious in the women's bathroom. The girls are third-year students. Both were treated by recovery. When we asked them what had happened to them, they did not remember anything of what had happened. What they did tell us was that they felt very weak, as if their energy had been stolen. We kept that incident quiet so as not to cause any problems at the academy. However, in these last 3 days a total of 30 students were found in the same way as the third-year girls. No one remembered anything that had happened. As you may know, at the academy we have security cameras that record everything that happens in the hallways and classrooms. But when these incidents occur, the cameras stop working, as if something was interfering with them. This is something to worry about. This is happening in our academy right under our noses. As you know, the safety of our students comes first. Something must be done to find the cause of all this, before things get out of control and lead to bigger problems. Aizawa, what do you suggest we do, Director? Nizu, as you know, we can't count on the video cameras. What I thought was to have some teachers patrol the academy. Whoever is behind all this, I don't think he would be able to stand up to a professional hero. So far, his victims have been young people from this academy. Midnight, knowledgeable Director. Nizu, for these reasons we gave the students the day off. The only ones who are active are the third-year students who are doing their internships with the heroes. Detective Sukachi gave me some very valuable information. It turns out that this is not only happening within the academy, but is also happening throughout the city. Several reports of people being found without power were reported, none of whom remember what happened. Whoever is behind all this is very clever. Meanwhile, we can see Mirio in his hero suit patrolling the streets with Sir Night Eye. They were walking calmly when they saw how Ryukyu in his dragon form flew out from between the buildings, crashing into another building, creating great destruction. The building's windows fell through the air. There were many civilians below. Mirio was about to react when he saw how some enormous and long tentacles pulled people out of the place. Mirio, that's Tamaki. Ryukyu was quite injured and fell to the ground, returning to normal. In front of her a large mass of pure darkness fell. Those present were impressed by what they saw. From the mass of darkness a female voice said, "With the energy you possess, my recovery will be complete." That mass grabbed Ryukyu by the neck, lifting her off the ground. Ryukyu tried to free himself, but in a matter of seconds he felt all his energy being consumed at an incredible speed. With each passing second, his vision became blurry to the point where he fell unconscious. That mass of darkness released Ryukyu, letting her fall to the ground. "Mirio, who are you? And why are you doing all this?" "Shadow, who am I?" He started laughing as he said, "Get ready, Hero Lemillion." That mass of darkness began to take shape, revealing a girl. "Mirio, and you are." Chapter 20. The True Form of the Izuku Demon? All that darkness vanished, revealing a light blue-haired girl with black eyes. Part of the darkness was attached to her body, forming a kind of clothing, so to speak. You could see the blue-haired girl's abdomen and a little higher, as if she were naked, but that darkness covered her breasts until it reached her shoulders. "Mirio and NEJIRE. Why are you doing all this?" Tamaki, who looked impressed, would say. "No. That's not NEJIRE, at least not the one we know." NEJIRE started laughing as she said, "Wow, I love seeing your faces of astonishment. I regret to inform you, but your friend NEJIRE is not awake at the moment. When she is unconscious or sleeping, I take control of her body." "Mirio, damn you, get out of my friend's body." "NEJIRE, I would love to do it, but I can't, at least not right now. Besides, it's not like I forcefully took over her body. NEJIRE and I made a contract in exchange for fulfilling her wish." Tamaki, wish? What do you mean by that? NEJIRE, okay, I'll tell you. You see, she asked me to go back in time to recover that boy's feelings. What was his name? Oh yes, now I remember, it was Izuku Kamadu. Mirio, what are you saying? NEJIRE, what you just heard. She hurt her friend, the boy she liked, and that had consequences. It made him lose his emotions and his friendship, and the feelings he had for her faded away. Seeing her friend and her love lost, she made a deal with me. I felt her back in time in exchange for resting in her body. Sir Naitai, what are you really? Nejire, that's a good question I am. She gave a smile saying, I love a demon. At these words, those present were paralyzed with fear. Nejire, you should see their faces right now. Well, I don't blame them after all they have died before their eyes. I would love to continue talking to you, but I have no time to waste. She was behind Tamaki at an incredible speed. She placed her hand on the lower part of his back and with air pressure, she pierced Tamaki. Mirio and Sir Naitai looked at this in astonishment. Tamaki spat out a lot of blood and flew towards where Mirio was, who caught him in the air. That was his serious mistake, since when he raised his gaze he was face to face with Nejire, who extended her hand towards him, and Mirio's body vibrated for a slight second. A yellow aura came out of this body and headed towards Nejire's mouth, where she tied that aura. Mirio fell to the ground unable to move, his eyes were blank. Sir Naitai took advantage of the fact that Nejire was distracted and positioned himself behind her to attack her, but when he was about to do so, his body paralyzed when he felt the demonic presence she emanated. The people who were in that area began to run away from the place. Near that place a certain green-haired man was walking with a raven. They were talking calmly when they saw people running in terror. Izuku, what's going on? People were shouting. We must escape from that demon. Izuku in his thoughts would say. Devil? Momo, Izuku-kun, let's go see. Izuku nodded his head and they started running quickly. A certain rabbit was running at high speed through the streets, reaching the area where Ryukyu and the others were. Sir Naitai stood still, unable to move. Nejire slowly turned around, staring at him, saying, What happened? Weren't you going to hit me? She started laughing as she said, You humans really are miserable creatures. Your mere existence bothers me. Since I'm in this world, I should take care of you. And to think that you could have lived peacefully with us, but you hunted us like animals. All for believing those bucking traitor deities. Nejire showed a look full of hatred. I will never forgive them. We trusted you, but you betrayed us. But sooner or later all the harm you did will come back to you. Nejire's right arm filled with darkness, taking the form of enormous claws. She raised her hand to cut Sir Naitai, but when she was about to cut him a rabbit, she was above her, raising her right leg ready to hit a powerful kick. Nejire received the impact of that kick with her right arm. Such an impact sank Nejire's feet into the pavement. Mirko had a big smile on his face as he said, You could withstand a kick from me. You will undoubtedly be an incredible rival for me. Mirko made a great leap backwards, and with great speed he took Sir Naitai and Ryukyu out of Nejire's reach. The rabbit saw how close to her rival were Mirio and Tamaki lying on the ground. She could notice the damage that Tamaki had received. Mirko, why are you doing this, girl? You are one of the big three if I'm not mistaken. Why did you hurt your two friends? Response. Mirko opened his eyes wide as he felt Nejire's claws rolling around the back of his neck. Nejire, just by moving my hand your head will fall rolling on the ground. Mirko was shaking from the fear he was feeling. His legs were paralyzed. Nejire approached her ear and whispered, But I don't want to kill you yet. I want you to keep showing me your face as you fall into despair. The light blue-haired girl spun in the air and landed a powerful kick on his left arm, sending Mirko crashing brutally into a building. Such an impact left the rabbit very badly injured. Her arm was broken. Mirko could only let out a cry of pain. Nejire, that's how it has to be. I want you to keep screaming louder and louder. She walked until she was face to face with Mirko, who was still embedded in that building with her head down. Nejire lifted her chin so that she would look into her eyes while she raised her arm with her claws ready to cut the rabbit. But when it was under his hand, he only cut the building since Mirko was no longer there. Nejire turned around and found herself facing the green-haired man who had a serious look. Momo was seeing the state of Mirio and the others. Momo, Izuku-kun, Tamaki-senpai needs urgent help. Izuku with Mirko in his arms began to release his demon aura, which enveloped Mirko for a few seconds. After that the shadow retreated, revealing Mirko without any injuries and with his arm healthy. Mirko was conscious and was surprised to see that he had nothing left. Izuku gently lowered her while her shadow fell over Tamaki and Mirio, healing them within seconds. Riko saw how Izuku's eyes were the same color as hers. Izuku, Momo, Miss Mirko, take the boys somewhere else. I won't be able to heal the Ryukyu heroine. If I do, I'll run out of energy to recover. Mirko, guys, you don't have your license, you can't act on your own. Izuku, the rules are the least of it now. Later I will accept the punishment. If I don't do something, everyone will be in danger. NEJIRE, until you finally arrive, little brother, I was waiting for you. Momo, brother? NEJIRE, come on, you're not going to tell me something after so long, we just saw each other again. I see if that's what you want. I'll take you out by force. She extended her hand towards Izuku. A great concentration of energy was present throughout the place. Izuku's body resisted the pressure. It was as if gravity itself was dragging him towards NEJIRE. NEJIRE increased her strength, causing Izuku's body to get closer to her little by little. A large amount of darkness began to emerge from Izuku's body. His face was slowly consumed by it. Izuku, I must resist. NEJIRE, come on, don't resist. Damn traitor. Show your true form. Chapter 21. The most powerful demon appears? Momo and Mirko saw how a lot of darkness came out of Izuku's body at the same time as he resisted. Izuku lowered his head for a couple of seconds. The darkness coming out of his body surrounded him, creating a small whirlpool of darkness. An immense gust of wind shook the entire place. Mirko, what is this? She said while resisting not to be dragged by the pressure of the wind. The whirlpool slowly began to be consumed by Izuku's body. NEJIRE just gave a smile. The darkness disappeared, revealing Izuku with half of his normal face, and the other half was his demon. Izuku had a horn coming out of his head. His eye was a crimson red. He had a wing of darkness coming out of the right side of his back. Part of his torso was visible, the other part was consumed by darkness, complementing the demon's body. Those who were present were paralyzed when they felt Izuku's presence. All Might was arriving at the place along with Aizawa. They came to see the swirl of darkness in the city from afar. Izuku, get out of here. I told you to get out of this damn place. Do you want to die? Go quickly. Momo and Mirko were surprised to see the change in attitude in that green-haired boy. They reacted to Izuku's voice and carried Mirio and the others, taking them all out of the place. Momo, be careful, Izuku, please, he said while carrying Ryukyu away from the place. NEJIRE, wow, I see that the boy has quite a bit of willpower. That transformation is incomplete. TCH, I won't rest until I get you out of that body, bro. I don't care if I have to kill the boy. NEJIRE gave a macabre smile. Izuku raised his left arm, which was a huge claw, formed of pure darkness. It began to take shape as if it were the tip of a sword, but its outline moved as if the darkness flowed like water. Izuku lowered his arm and NEJIRE made a great leap to the side, dodging the darkness that came out of the green-haired man's arm, cutting off the entire street they were on. The cut was deep and at a long distance. NEJIRE, I almost missed it. So this is your straight cut darkness technique. The light blue-haired girl turned her gaze to see the green-haired boy, but she was greatly surprised to see that he was in front of her. Ready to cut her with those claws of darkness, the light blue-haired girl covered herself with both arms, protecting herself with her own darkness. After receiving the impact, her feet were embedded in the ground. NEJIRE in her thoughts would say, his strength is as if he had his body before, but why? It's still in this boy's body. Did he? Tell me something, you. You're in this boy's body because he's the person she loves, right? That angel for whom you gave your life in the war. If I remember correctly, brother, you died protecting this human, right? Izuku's demon didn't answer anything. NEJIRE would manage to get away from the green-haired man by taking a big leap backwards, saying, I admired you, brother, but you decided to sacrifice yourself for the filthy, repulsive humans who hunted us down mercilessly, and that I will never forgive you. A great darkness came out of the body of that sky blue girl, elevating her to the highest point of the sky. Her feet were consumed by a great darkness. Such darkness spread at great speed like the roots of a tree over the entire city. To give you an idea, imagine the trunk of a giant tree with its roots sticking out of the ground. Well, that's what NEJIRE's lower part looked like, but it was pure darkness. From her abdomen up, NEJIRE was normal. Izuku just watched as the darkness continued to expand. Izuku, I have to stop her. Momo and Mirko, who had already left the place, saw NEJIRE in the sky because it was impossible not to see her. Momo, she. Mirko, this is on another level. NEJIRE, I will kill all humans and you will not be the exception. 2 columns of darkness emerged from NEJIRE's back, taking the form of 2 giant claws. Without thinking twice, she caught the green-haired boy in her claws, beginning to squeeze him, hearing his bones creak under the pressure. Izuku screamed in pain. NEJIRE, come on, I want to hear you. Scream, damn traitor. The green-haired boy was losing consciousness, while he slowly closed his eyes. The last thing he saw was the light blue-haired girl with a big smile. Izuku opened his eyes, finding himself in a place where everything was white. Izuku, where am I? A voice would say. We finally see each other again, Izuku. Beneath him a great darkness rose as if it were his shadow. This darkness took the form of a demon, but it was not his usual demon. Izuku, who are you? Demon, oh, you don't remember me? You woke me up when we protected our mother from Dad's blows. That demon gave a smile, saying, You want to save the girl, right? Then let me out and take control. I can stop her, and you know it. Izuku, no. He told me not to let you go out. Demon, I know, but he couldn't do anything, or could he? Time is short. Make a decision before your body dies completely. When I'm done with everything, I'll give you your body back, I promise. Izuku, are you serious? Demon, yes, then do you accept? Izuku, I accept. That demon gave a smile as he entered Izuku's body. Outside his mind, Izuku was still in NEJIRE's clutches. The green-haired man had already returned to his normal form. NEJIRE, now it's time to give you the final blow. She felt a great pressure. The green-haired man raised his gaze, showing his completely red eyes. A large amount of darkness came out of his body. NEJIRE let go of him. Izuku fell to the ground with a cry of pain, while that darkness assimilated with him. NEJIRE, this presence is from. The darkness completely covered Izuku's body. When it disappeared, a different demon could be seen. NEJIRE, you? You are. The light blue-haired girl's voice trembled with fear. That demon began to laugh, saying, Now it's my turn to play. You turn back time to recover your emotions. Haha, let me laugh a little, you can't fool me. It's time to return to the real world. He raised his hand and several daggers of darkness began to emerge from the ground. They began to join together into a large dark dagger. Demon blood technique. Dimensional cutting. That dagger in a great flash pierced the heart of the blue-haired girl, without her being able to react. NEJIRE, damn it, she said while spitting blood. Demon, go back in time, you scum don't have the power to do so. Everything around him began to fade into particles of darkness. Demon, the only person who is able to turn back time. It's my sister Liz and no one else. He said as he looked at the real NEJIRE, who was suspended in the air, and around her there was a great amount of darkness stuck to the walls of the room they were in. The entire hotel they were staying in was covered by that darkness, forming a kind of cocoon. Chapter 22. Do you want to get your emotions back? That demon, seeing what the situation was like in the real world, said, It's time to save them. At that, the voice of the other demon that had caused all that would say, Damn you. You'll pay for this. Demon, HMP, you are no match for me and you know it. He moved his right hand forward, saying, Angelic technique, divine sword. After saying that, a sword created from divine light formed in the palm of his right hand. He nailed it to the floor of the room, and in seconds a wave of light in the shape of a ring traveled throughout the place. The darkness that was slowly being disintegrated by that light, the demon that was in Nejire's body could only scream in pain, saying, "It's not impossible. I can't die here." That demon was disintegrated by that technique because its body was not completely complete, it could only be formed from pure darkness, and that was what led to its downfall. Nejire and the others who were wrapped in the cocoons of darkness fell to the ground. From the blow they began to slowly regain consciousness. When they opened their eyes they could feel as if their body had no energy. "Mirio, what happened?" he asked as he tried to stand up. Nejire slowly began to open her eyes. Her eyes met those of the demon who was staring at her. The blue-haired girl felt a deep fear when she saw him. The demon, seeing her lying on the ground, approached her, staring at her fixedly. He lifted his chin with some force, saying, "Because of you, you almost killed everyone here." Nejire just opened her eyes wide upon. Hearing that, she remembered the other demon she had made the contract with. "Nejire, Izuku, where is Izuku?" "Me and him." "Demon, what you saw in that world was not real. He just made you live what you wanted to happen. Making a contract with a demon never ends well, girl. Learn to bear your mistakes and don't expect someone else to fix them, much less a demon." After saying that, he let go of her chin and walked away from her. Nejire saw how that demon smiled and said, "I finally missed the real world. Being trapped in that boy's body is certainly overwhelming, but he trusted me and that's something I respect. You want to get your feelings back, right? Boy, huh? Demon, you love Izuku, right?" Nejire, with tears in her eyes, said, "I love him with all my heart, but because of me I lost him, and he hates me." That demon remained silent, seeing that the light blue-haired girl was truly sorry. He just sighed and said, "I will never fully understand humans, but you're not lying. Listen to me carefully, girl. If you want to get his feelings back, you have to make him trust you." "Nejire, should I make Izuku trust me?" "Demon, no, you must convince his guardian demon. You will see inside Izuku there are two demons. You've probably already seen him since Izuku defeated you once while fighting the first demon. I am his second demon. We both inhabit his body. I usually don't possess his body, but if I didn't, they were all going to die. Since his other demon couldn't kill his brother, since they are both demons. Nejire, and you. How could you kill him if you're a demon?" That demon smiled slightly, saying, "I am half angel and half demon. In other words, I am a fallen angel. For that reason I was able to eliminate it." Nejire, fallen angel? Demon, well, if you want to get her feelings back, you know what you have to do. When he shows up in his true form, you will have to say, you want to seal your soul with his. Your feelings have to be pure. You don't have to doubt for a single second, otherwise the boy's emotions will be lost forever. After saying that, the demon began to fade away, revealing part of Izuku's body beneath it. Well, after all, he had borrowed his body, and before disappearing completely he said, "Please don't make another contract with another demon, yes?" Nejire could see how that demon for that second showed a slight, sincere and kind smile. He was no longer afraid but rather pure tranquility. She smiled slightly, saying, I promise that I will get Izuku's feelings back." That demon had already disappeared completely because it had returned to the interior of the freckled man's body. The one who was standing, his eyes slowly closed as he said, "I have no strength anymore." After saying this, he fell unconscious to the ground. Nejire wanted to help him, but she didn't even have the strength to stand up. She crawled as best she could to where he was, only to grab his hand and tell him, "I will get your feelings back and tell you that I love you until you accept me." After saying that, the light blue-haired girl closed her eyes and fell unconscious. 3 hours had passed, and the light blue-haired girl slowly began to open her eyes. She could see how she was on the bed in the hotel room. Next to her were Tamaki, Mirio, and Aizawa, who upon seeing that she woke up said, "You finally woke up, Hato. We were worried about you." Nejire only decides. Izuku. Mirio and Tamaki looked at each other with a look of concern. Aizawa, Kamadu hasn't woken up yet. He pointed to the side. NEJIRE turned her gaze towards where her sensei was indicating, only to see a certain brunette standing next to the green-haired man's bed. Momo had always been by the green-haired boy's side. NEJIRE, what happened? Aizawa, that's what we want to know. The last thing I remember is that we felt an overwhelming presence in this hotel, and then a mass of darkness trapped us all. And well, when we opened our eyes, our bodies were very weak. When we had enough strength to stand up, I went to see if everyone was okay. Fortunately, everyone was safe, but you and Kamado were in this room unconscious. Mirio nudged NEJIRE slightly, saying, even though you were unconscious, you didn't let go of Kamado's hand. NEJIRE, remembering the last thing that happened, blushed and said, shut up, Mirio. Aizawa, well, the only one who didn't wake up is him. NEJIRE couldn't help but want to be by the green-haired man's side to take care of him, but she was the least suitable for all the damage she had caused him. But he couldn't help but feel a pain in his chest when he saw how that brunette took the green-haired man's hand. Momo in her thoughts would say, I won't leave you alone, Izuku. I'll be by your side no matter what happens. 4 hours had passed and the green-haired boy still hadn't woken up. Momo had gone to her room to take a shower and rest a little. She asked NEJIRE if she could take care of him. NEJIRE accepted. The light blue-haired girl was looking at the green-haired girl. She wanted to take her hand, but a great darkness came out of the green-haired girl's body, preventing her from touching him. NEJIRE realized that that was her guardian demon. The light blue-haired girl was about to try to talk to that demon, but she could see how that darkness entered the green-haired boy's body again, while he began to open his eyes. Izuku, where am I? He began to look to his sides, recognizing the room. He saw the light blue-haired girl who had a few tears in her eyes. NEJIRE, Izuku. She wanted to give him a hug, but the green-haired man just moved away from her, preventing her from hugging him. Izuku, what are you trying to do? Did you want to hug me because you felt sorry for me? NEJIRE, no, I don't. Izuku, I'm sorry, Miss Hato. I don't trust you anymore. I already told you that my quirk feeds on my emotions, and the emotions I had for you no longer exist. NEJIRE, your demon has them, right? Izuku didn't say anything and started walking out of the room. NEJIRE, you hate me? Izuku, you hate me, right? He asked with a broken voice, feeling a lump in his throat. Izuku stopped dead in his tracks, his gaze downcast. NEJIRE, I miss you, Baka. There isn't a single second that goes by that I don't regret saying those words to my teammates. I thought if I told them how cool and sweet you were to me, I would lose you. I was afraid that if I said that they would want to take you away from me. That's why I said things without thinking. Izuku, did you know that small words can kill big feelings? Why did you kill mine? If you knew you were someone important to my senpai. NEJIRE just opened her eyes wide upon hearing those words. Yes, there was no doubt for that second the Izuku she loved was there with her. The green-haired man's eyes had that emerald glow for a second, but then they faded, taking on a dull color. He replied in a cold voice. See you, Miss NEJIRE. After saying that, the freckled boy left the room, closing the door. On the other side, Izuku leaned against the door, and in his head was the question from that light blue-haired girl. Do you hate me? Izuku quietly said. No. Chapter 23, Dark Release. A day had passed since that demon had been defeated. Class 1A was still in that hotel where they were staying. The snow covered much of the place. We can see all the boys outside, some skiing in the snow, having fun to forget that bad moment. A certain green-haired boy was away from all his classmates, while he remembered everything that had happened and the last words he had said to NEJIRE. He was standing on a small snowy hill looking at the beautiful view that place offered them. The image of his mother that day she had abandoned him on that road passed through his mind for just a second. He was brought out of his thoughts when he felt Tokoemi's hand on his shoulders. Tokoemi, Kamado, are you okay? Why don't you go have fun with others? The green-haired man just closed his eyes, saying, Yes, I'm fine, Tokoemi. To tell the truth, I wanted to distance myself from the rest. Before, I wanted to have friends, but now that my emotions are gone, all I can think about is that I should have done this a long time ago. Tokoemi, I see. I don't know whether to be happy or worried about your words. The green-haired man smiled slightly, saying, The last thing I want is to cause problems for a colleague. Tokoemi, I see we think alike. By the way, do you know what the real reason for this trip is? The green-haired man was about to answer when an alarm sounded in the hotel indicating that something had happened. The green-haired boy and the others gathered in a matter of seconds. At the entrance to the hotel they found Aizawa apparently injured. Mina, Aizawa-sensei, what happened? She said as she knelt down to help him. Aizawa, v villains. Everyone opened their eyes wide except for the green-haired man. Mina, villains? Aizawa, yes, they took the hotel staff hostage and left through the back of the building towards the mountains. We don't know what their real objective is, but we must recover the hostages. Put on your hero suits. The whole class agreed. After a few minutes everyone would be in their suits except for the green-haired boy. Momo had created several intercoms for each of them. She gave the last one to the green-haired boy. Aizawa, it's time for them to be heroes. The whole class nodded with big smiles and left the hotel. Momo, well, we already have the information squad ready. These include Koji Koda, Kyoka Jiro and Mizo Shoji. Kyoka plugged her jacks into the ground, concentrating. She looked up and said, Northwest at 900 meters. To the east 750 meters and to the west 987 meters. I have detected them at these addresses. Momo, alright, it's time to be heroes. The whole class screamed with excitement. Momo, let's split into groups of 3 too. He couldn't finish speaking as a certain blonde man started creating explosions in the direction of the east while saying, I will show them that I can save them without their help, a couple of extras. Kaminari and Kirishima followed him saying, Don't worry about us, I promise we will rescue the hostages. Ida, Bakugo definitely doesn't know how to work as a team, please continue with what you were saying, Yaoyorozu-san. Momo, yes, as I was saying. Izuku, Tokoemi, Kendo, Shota, Shiro all have their own problems. Momo, I'll leave the rest up to you. We will go west. Momo, understood. Izuku. Izuku, yes? Momo, be careful, yes, please return safely. Izuku turned his back saying, Don't worry, I will protect my teammates even though I know they can defend themselves, but we are still a team. Plus ultra. These words encouraged everyone present, who shouted the same thing and each went out in their established direction. Meanwhile Aizawa stayed at the hotel and would say, I know you can do it, well it's time to get some sleep. He got into his yellow bag and went to sleep. The green-haired teen was running through some trees that were covered in snow, since there were quite a few trees in the area they were in. Shiro, Kamadu, how strong do you think the villains are? Izuku, I don't know, but I don't know if you noticed, but the big 3 weren't with Aizawa-sensei. At those words, Izuku's group opened their eyes wide, taking in that detail. Kendo, maybe they went chasing the villains. Tokoemi, it could be an option, or they could have also been captured as hostages. If so, then our opponents are strong. Izuku, we must proceed with caution. The boys were walking in total silence until a question broke the tranquility of the moment. Kendo, Kamadu, is what you said true? Izuku, what do you mean? Kendo, well, your quirk feeds on your emotions. Izuku, oh yeah, it's true. Kendo, so you don't have feelings for NEJIRE-senpai? Well, I know it's none of my business, but before I thought they were couples, they were always together and everything. Shiro, I thought the same thing too, but I saw how from one day to the next you changed. Now you are cold, although we know that you are good, your demonic essence is scarier than before. Tokoemi wouldn't say anything. Izuku just closed his eyes saying, I didn't become cold just because I wanted to. I did it so I wouldn't fall so easily for other people's lies. I understood that turning cold was the only way I could save myself from feeling pain. Even though I am cold, I will never do what they did to me. Answer me this. If you break a glass and glue it back together, is the glass the same again or not? Kendo, obviously not, since no matter how you put the pieces together it won't change the fact that it's broken. Izuku, well, the same thing happens with a person. That was the last thing the green-haired man said. After those words no one dared to ask anything else. They heard cries for help a few meters away. Ciro, that voice is from. Without wasting time, the team ran towards where the voice came from. When they arrived, they saw a certain light blue-haired girl standing on the edge of a cliff. Everyone saw how she had her legs and hands tied. The light blue-haired girl was wearing her hero costume. Next to her were two more women. They were hotel workers. She was happy to see the boys, especially the green-haired one. The boys were about to go help her, but Izuku stopped them all. Ciro, why are you stopping us, Kamadu? We must go save them. At that a voice from among them would say. I see. And do you really think they can save them? Those present opened their eyes wide. Izuku could barely see the user of that voice out of the corner of his eye. The subject had a mask with a hood over his hair. He was somewhat muscular. Before the boys could react, their rival spun around and hit them all, sending them flying a few meters. Izuku recovered in the air and fell on his feet on the sand. Shota created ice pillars to stop himself. Subject, let's see if you can save your hero friend. A powerful explosion could be heard in the distance. Izuku in his thoughts would say, the others are already fighting. We must win no matter what it takes. Izuku closed his eyes, feeling a great darkness running through his body. His demon in his head told him, it's time to show our power, Izuku. Izuku and his demon would say at the same time. Dark release. A large shadow of a demon with red eyes emerged from the ground right behind the freckled man. A great terror invaded everyone present. The masked subject would say, as scary, I'd heard about his quirk, but this is more than I expected. That shadow completely covered the green-haired man's body. Black rays came out of his body. Little by little that shadow disappeared, revealing the green-haired man with a horn coming out of his forehead. Both of his eyes were black. From his right embrace came flames of black fire, covering him completely. Her torso was exposed, revealing her toned back and chest. A large mark was on his chest. Izuku, imperfect demonic form 30%. Final part 1, past I give you my life for your emotions. The green-haired man raised his right hand and lowered it, saying, dark cut. After saying that, a great darkness in a straight line cut through the place. His opponent was able to avoid it, but he was greatly surprised to see that behind him, the path had been completely destroyed for hundreds of meters. The green-haired team looked at this in amazement. Izuku, be prepared guys, our priority is to keep the hostages safe, that's why. Everyone understood the green-haired man's words and acted immediately. Shota attacked without hesitation with his ice pillars. His rival with a simple blow created a powerful taste of air, destroying them completely. The air pressure forced several of them to retreat, and Ciro used his tapes to catch the hostages, keeping them safe. Ciro, hostages, save them. Before he could finish speaking, he could see how his rival was a few meters away from him, suspended in the air, about to hit him while saying, not for long. Ciro opened his eyes wide. Izuku stood in front of him looking at his opponent, saying, I am your opponent. Both collided their fists, creating an air shockwave. Ciro was sent flying along with the three hostages, but Tokoemi used dark shadow, trapping the three. Shota protected them with ice pillars. Izuku smiled as he exerted more pressure with his fist, saying, it's perfect to test my demonic strength. All might. His rival under the mask smiled slightly, saying, this boy. You never cease to amaze me, Shonen. But, as your teacher, I will not give you any special treatment. Smash. The blonde easily pushed his fist, hitting the green-haired man full in the face, sending him flying at high speed and hitting several trees in the area. Tokoemi and the others saw this with great astonishment, and went on alert. NEJIRE was worried about the green-haired boy. They had not heard that their rival was All Might, so they thought he was a real villain. The only ones who knew All Might's identity were the three hostages and the green-haired man. Shota attacked with a burst of fire. All Might clapped his hands together, giving a small clap extinguishing the flames. He was in for a big surprise when he had Kendo right in front of him about to hit him. Tokoyami was at his side with Dark Shadow ready to hit him. The peace symbol smiled beneath the mask, saying softly, "They used the flames to cover my field of vision. You are impressive." He took Kendo by the arm, spun slightly and threw her at Tokoyami, who caught her in reaction, but they were sent flying a couple of meters, as All Might had thrown the orange-haired girl quite hard. He looked up seeing how Cyril was above him, who fired his ribbons, trapping one of his arms, but he held the ribbons, making Cyril spin and hit him against Shota. He was about to take a step when a loud bang was heard in the distance. He saw that a large mass of darkness was coming towards them at great speed. All Might clenched his fists and launched himself at high speed in the same direction from which the darkness came. Izuku and All Might collided their fists even harder than before. This time the shockwave destroyed a large part of some trees. Izuku had blood in his mouth because that blow he had received before from All Might had made him spit blood. "All Might, let's see if you can keep up with me, Shonen." Just like in the fight in the original story, he began to exchange blows with the green-haired man as he did with Noma. The green-haired man had a hard time keeping up with All Might's speed. He was pushing his body to the limit, as little by little he began to receive the powerful blows of the symbol of peace. While receiving the blows he would say in his thoughts, "SW. This is the enormous power of the one who stands at the top as the number one hero. If he was fighting for real I would have lost a long time ago, but I can't lose here. I have to gain enough time on the others for that reason. I'm not giving up." The green-haired man began to increase his speed. All Might smiled slightly, beginning to get a little more serious. The blonde grabbed the green-haired man's face and brutally slammed him into the ground, creating a large crater. The green-haired man spat out a lot of blood, and for a moment his eyes lost all trace of darkness. "All Might, accept that I won, Shonen. But you can still improve a lot more." "Izuku, if I accept that you won, I would be putting you, All Might, on my own." I was buying time for her. All Might opened his eyes wide at those words. He turned his gaze towards the others and saw how a few centimeters away from him was Shota with his left arm wrapped in powerful flames of fire, as well as his palm. The green-haired man took a great leap. "Shota, flare of fire." She placed her palm in front of her opponent and hit him full on with a large amount of powerful fire. Such an attack devastated, creating a large path of fire in her path. The bicolor was breathing heavily. The green-haired man fell next to her. A large amount of steam spread along the path created by her attack. "Izuku, well done everything." The green-haired man looked away, saying, "You should cover yourself." "Shota, huh? What do you think?" She couldn't finish speaking when she saw how her suit hadn't resisted all the heat that she had released, so it burned, leaving a large part of her torso exposed, since she had even burned her own bra, so her left breast could be seen in all its splendor XD. Shota was blushing slightly, so she covered herself with her right arm, somewhat embarrassed. Tokoyami and the others from a few meters behind would say, "We won." Izuku watched as the steam slowly faded away, revealing All Might standing hundreds of meters away with his suit and mask completely destroyed. The peace symbol had steam coming out of his body, and some slight burns. "Cyril, but if it is All Might." All Might looked up, saying, "That attack was very powerful, but it won't be enough to beat me." The steam that the blonde was giving off was not because of Shota's attack, but because he was already reaching the time limit of his muscular form. Before Izuku and All Might could do anything, they felt the ground beneath where Tokoyami and the others were cracking open due to the blows and damage that All Might and Izuku had caused, but Shota's last attack had dislodged the broken fragments that were beneath the ground. Being on the edge of a cliff, it was a matter of seconds before those who were on that part fell off the cliff. The ground suddenly broke away and the green-haired man saw how his companions were about to fall. He moved at high speed, grabbing Ciro and throwing him towards Shota. He immediately grabbed 2 of the hostages and threw them towards Zero, who caught them with the ribbons. All Might also moved, taking Kendo and Tokoemi. The green-haired man saw how NEJIRE along with the entire place fell off the cliff. When he saw the light blue-haired girl fall, he jumped without hesitation to catch her. As she fell, NEJIRE only closed her eyes because she was still tied by the ropes, but she opened her eyes when she heard the green-haired man's voice. Izuku, I don't hate you, NEJIRE. The light blue-haired girl opened her eyes with a couple of tears. The green-haired boy extended his hand, catching her. He hugged her against his body, and with his right hand he broke the ropes that tied her. NEJIRE hugged him tightly. Izuku hugged her in the same way, protecting her as they fell through the void. All Might couldn't jump in to save us as he got everyone else to safety. Both Izuku and NEJIRE just closed their eyes as they fell from a great height. In a moment everything was dark, inside Izuku's consciousness. Serio, fallen angel. Long ago I was an angel like the others. My sister Lisbeth was always by my side at all times. She was blessed with the grace of creating realities. That is, she could rewrite a story, a destiny, a future, or simply create item. I was conceived with a less powerful grace. At that time I did not understand its meaning, but one day I knew what it was for. Unlike my sister, I could never understand humans even a little. What was so good about them? They just lead a boring life. They are carried away by desire, greed, avarice, etc. There was just nothing interesting about them but. My sister loved spending time with them, visiting their world, visiting the demons. She didn't care if they were angels, demons, or humans, she always fit in with them. To the point where she fell in love with a human and broke the sacred rules. As angels, we are not allowed to show ourselves to humans with our real appearance, nor intervene directly in their lives. Doing so is breaking our rules, but she wasn't going to let the person she had fallen in love with die, especially when the feeling between them was mutual. My sister was always everything to me. That's why I blamed myself, saying that I had broken the sacred rules. I didn't care what punishment I would receive, but if I could protect her, then it was worth it. I was exiled from the angelic realm. I was banished, becoming a fallen angel, part of the demon realm. But when I thought I had saved my sister, I never thought that the worst would happen in heaven. Even though I accepted all of her punishment, one of the angels was not satisfied and looked for more evidence against her because it seemed that there was someone who wanted to get rid of her. It was then that the demons who wanted my sister made their move, and during the trial. Flashback. Supreme Angel. Well, it's time to begin your punishment for breaking the sacred rules, dear sister. You are further accused of having feelings for a human. Sorry, I will correct my sentence. You are accused of having a relationship with a human, of intervening directly with them, of showing yourself in person, among other things. Despite your current position, there are a few words you would like to say to your loved one before the 2 of you are executed. After saying that, 2 angels entered the room while pushing a young man of approximately 16 or 17 years old, with disheveled gray hair and emerald eyes. That boy was handcuffed from head to toe. Liz shed tears upon seeing him and said, Izuku, Supreme Angel, for this miserable human you broke the rules, so if you want to be with him so much, then I will kill you now, He could not finish speaking as a huge explosion shook the place and a voice was heard. HMP. Now what's up to you? Hey sister, you didn't think you'd be alone in this fight, did you? Liz, yes, Serial. Behind this were several demons who in a great flash freed Liz and Izuku. That time was the last time I saw my sister. Before dying after the war that was fought, I approached Izuku's lifeless body with my last strength, because if it was for my sister's happiness, then I did what I could at that moment, and gave my blessing to him, destiny. He would be reborn to be reincarnated in another body with his same personality, but without his memories. The rest is up to your sister. I can't do anything for you anymore. When I woke up, I found myself as a protective guardian of this boy who happened to be Izuku, but it was from a different reality then that I learned that my sister used her blessing and rewrote a new destiny. I know that Izuku's true reincarnation is in another reality, and of course she will be with him. I'm sorry, sister, for not being able to make him remember you, but If I am in this reality, it means that I have a purpose, and that is to prepare this boy for the final battle. Isvath, first demon. I thought he was dead, but a warm voice sounded in my head. I slowly opened my eyes and found a girl with blue eyes like her hair. Seeing me wake up, a wide smile formed on his face as if he was glad to see me wake up. I still remember his words. You finally woke up. I thought I hadn't been able to save you. You had a pretty serious wound, but I'm glad to see that I was able to save you. Now that I remember, I had been seriously injured by one of the humans who had a divine weapon. The humans hunted us because of them, my race. Because? She looked at me confused, asking. Why, what? Why did you save me? I love a demon. She just laughed lightly, saying. And so what? I know you're a demon, it's obvious by the horns on your head. I don't need a reason to save someone who is hurt, I just couldn't let you die. Not by the way. What is your name? How did you end up in that state? Why do you look so much like a human? I thought demons would be like the legends say, you know, like big monsters that inspire fear with their presence, and you know that. She was so curious, careless, and a little clumsy, but she saved my life that time, and as much as I wanted to, I couldn't get away from her side. There was something that attracted me to her. My name is Isvath. She answered me with a warm smile. Nice to meet you, Isvath. My name is Idrin Oda. I hope you and I can get along very well. Who would have thought that I, being a demon, would end up falling in love with that human? How many memories. But now, current time. We can see NEJIRE, who came out of a small river dragging the green-haired man's body. She entered a small cave. Without wasting time, she touched the green-haired man's pulse, but it had stopped. The blue-haired girl wasted no time in beginning to give him CPR, tears falling from her eyes. NEJIRE, please wake up Izuku. Don't leave me, you can't leave me. Forgive me for everything I did to you, I'm truly sorry. I still want to continue falling in love with you. I want to recover your emotions. I want to make my life only by your side, so please don't leave me. She gave him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. All of this happened while his first demon watched the whole scene. He saw how desperate that light blue girl was and that the words she was saying were sincere. For a moment he saw Idrin and opened his eyes wide, saying, for a second I guess you also found someone special like my Idrin, isn't that right, boy? He snapped his fingers, causing the entire place to be covered in a pure reddish darkness. NEJIRE stood up looking around, and when she looked back to see Izuku, he was no longer there. In front of her, a large black shadow began to form until it took the shape of a large demon which had a big smile. NEJIRE, seeing it, felt great fear, so she couldn't move. She knew that this was Izuku's first guardian demon. Demon, NEJIRE Hado, what do you offer me in exchange for returning Izuku's emotions? NEJIRE opened her eyes wide at those words. Demon, answer me. NEJIRE, I will give you whatever you ask of me in exchange for regaining the emotions of the person I love. The demon just looked at her, noticing that her words were sincere and determined by what she said. Your life. Boy, huh? Demon, give me your life in exchange for your emotions. Do you accept? NEJIRE lowered her head, remembering all the nice moments she had spent with the freckled boy. She smiled slightly, saying, I accept, you can take my life. If it's for the person I love, then I'm willing to give you my life. Final. A demon who just wanted to be heard. That demon would just look at her and smile slightly, saying, I see you're really a fool. Boy, huh? Why do you call me stupid? Demon, if you give me your life when he recovers his emotions, how do you think it will affect him to know that the person he loves is no longer there? NEJIRE just opened her eyes wide upon hearing those words and responded as best she could. But he can fall in love again, right? It is possible that later in his life someone better than me will appear, someone who values him more than I do and who will not make him suffer. I already hurt him once and I know I can't erase the past or change it. I tried to do it, but I think you know how it ended. I put all my friends in danger because of my selfish desire to fix everything when I knew better than anyone that I could have prevented it. So that's why I. Demon, there will be no one else in his life. Boy, huh? Demon, in Izuku's life there will be no one else who values him the way you do now. I can clearly see that your emotions are warm, sincere and full of pure love, so much so that you are willing to give your own life for the boy's emotions. You remind me of my fiancé Nejire. Nejire felt great sadness in the words and in the gaze of that demon. Demon, I Isvath the demon of emotions make a pact with you human. Demonic technique, eternal union. After saying those words, Nejire's body vibrated intensely while a very bright warm light illuminated the entire place. Nejire began to slowly levitate in the air. That demon snapped his fingers and in front of her appeared the body of the green-haired man, or that's what Nejire thought. But the reality was different. It wasn't the body of the green-haired man, it was his soul along with his emotions. The green-haired man's soul was a living image of the freckled man's body. Nejire saw how the green-haired man slowly opened his eyes, meeting those emerald eyes full of life and color that she liked so much. Yes, they were no longer a dull color, nor did they show that coldness. Nejire, Izuku? The light blue-haired boy extended his hand, touching the green-haired boy's cheek, who smiled tenderly, saying, "What's wrong, senpai?" Nejire's blue eyes crystallized and began to shed several tears. Without hesitation, she hugged him tenderly. At that, some footsteps were heard all over the place while a voice appeared saying, "I see you made it, girl." Nejire could see how little by little a shadow approached where the first demon was. The light blue-haired girl was in the presence of the two green-haired demons. "Nejire, you are the fallen angel." "Demon 2, I didn't introduce myself before, my name is Serial." "I see you were able to get Isvath to trust you. Well done, human. Tell me, do you still remember the words I said to you last time? If you remember them, then it's time for you to say them." Nejire opened her eyes slightly, remembering those words, and with a warm smile she said, "I want to unite my soul with yours, Izuku. Isvath, now kiss him." "Boy, huh? What the H things are you saying?" she asked, quite blushed. "Serial, you have to kiss him so the eternal union will be complete. That way his emotions will return to his body." Nejire looked into the green-haired boy's eyes and slowly brought her lips closer to his, uniting them in a warm kiss. For Nejire it was her first kiss, so she was blushing a lot. As she kissed him, a warm light enveloped them both, completely blinding the entire place. Suddenly Nejire opened her eyes and found herself in the cave they were in. She looked at the green-haired man's body. "Nejire, Ize." She couldn't finish speaking when she saw how the green-haired man slowly began to open his eyes. His vision was blurry until he adjusted to the light of the place. Nejire could see how his eyes were emerald again. Without thinking, she hugged him tightly while saying, "You finally woke up, I was worried about you." Izuku was surprised by that hug, and he would say, "Your senpai, can you let me go?" The green-haired man's voice was somewhat nervous and clumsy. "Nejire, I don't want to. I don't want to let you go. I let you go once and I lost you, but now I will never let you go again." The green-haired man remembered what had happened before, and how he asked his demon to take away his emotions. He was about to speak, but Nejire's words interrupted him. Nejire separated from the green-haired man while tears fell from her cheeks. She would say, "Forgive me for all the harm I did to you. I was afraid that if my friends got close to you, then they would take you away from me. I just wanted you by my side. I already clearly had my feelings for you before. That's why this time I will be honest with myself, and with you, Izuku." She smiled slightly, saying, "I like you too much, Izuku. I want to be by your side always. I want to feel your hugs, your kisses. Honestly, I want a life only by your side. Nothing would make me happier than being with the person I truly love." "That's right, I love you, Izuku." The green-haired boy opened his eyes wide, feeling those emotions that only she could provoke in him. He saw how she looked at him tenderly while her tears fell from her cheeks. The freckled boy reached out his hand, and with his fingers he wiped the tears from both of his cheeks. He smiled slightly and said, "Please don't cry, senpai. I don't like to see you cry." I love a demon. Do you still want me? He couldn't finish speaking as the light blue-haired girl threw herself on top of him. Izuku opened his eyes wide as he felt the light blue-haired girl's soft and warm lips on his, as NEJIRE was kissing him as if there was no tomorrow. She felt the green-haired man tenderly hold her waist, holding her against his body as he kissed her back. They both just closed their eyes, uniting their emotions in a warm mutual kiss between them. As they separated, NEJIRE placed her forehead against the green-haired man's, saying, "Demon or not, I still love you with all my heart, Izuku, so please let me be by your side for the rest of my life." Izuku, what should I do? NEJIRE puffed out her cheeks cutely, saying, "Tell me yes, Baka." The green-haired man gave her a short kiss, saying, "Of course I want you by my side for the rest of my life, like a friend." NEJIRE made a cute pout. The green-haired boy just laughed a little, saying, "It's a joke. I want you in my life as my girlfriend, my wife, my world, my everything, NEJIRE." "NEJIRE, as your wife? That sounds very nice, but why didn't you say like the mother of your children?" The green-haired man with a drop of sweat answered. "Don't you think that's thinking too far ahead?" NEJIRE, yes I know, but I can't stop imagining myself starting a family with you. Izuku let out a light laugh, saying, "If Tamaki-senpai heard you now, it would be more than obvious that he would call the UN." NEJIRE let out a tender laugh, saying, "You're right, but you know I would hit him. Although I am only 1 year older than you, age does not matter to me if I can be by your side. Time, distance, and place are the least important." Meanwhile, in the green-haired man's consciousness, Isvath and Serial would have been left alone. "Isvath, I thought you didn't like to interact with humans very much, Serial." Serial, well, I spent a lot of time with the human that my sister loved. I guess that made me change my mind. SW. You fell in love with a human, huh? Isvath, yes, that was a long time ago. Serial, do you think the boy will do it? Isvath, do you mean assimilation from birth? Serial, yes, according to what was told before you and I could exist, demons and angels did not get along until an angel and a demon assimilated their bodies into one, creating a. Isvath, yes, I know that Izuku will succeed. He is the key to stopping this approaching final war. I have placed all my trust in him. Serial, before we leave, will you tell him what really happened to his mother? Isvath bowed her head, saying, No, I don't want to see him suffer again, so I'll take the secret to the grave. Serial smiled slightly, saying, Well, I certainly understand why you are the demon of emotions. It must be difficult for you to carry the emotions that cause the most harm to human beings. If you want to keep it a secret, I will support your decision. After all, he also took the secret to the grave. After leaving the cave, NEJIRE and Izuku returned to the hotel where their friends greeted them with a big hug. All Might hugged them both because he had been very worried about them. Since they had both fallen into the river, they were swept away from the place, as everyone had been searching for them in various places for 6 hours. The supposed villains had been the academy's own teachers, since it was all a test to put the boys into practice. Momo and the others saw how Izuku's eyes had that emerald color full of life. He had smiled again. After 3 days they had returned to the UA Academy, where they continued with their hero practices and tasks. Mirio and Tamaki were happy to see how NEJIRE and Izuku had reconciled. After a week they had told them about their love relationship. This didn't surprise them much because they already imagined something like that. Tamaki, as soon as he found out, informed the UN, and as usual NEJIRE had beaten him. The group of friends went out to eat in various places. Little by little that group of 3 became larger, because later they were joined by Momo, Tokoemi, Mina, Kendo, and so on. Everyone was having a fun time. All Might had offered to be the heir of One for All to the freckled boy, but Izuku, somewhat embarrassed, rejected the offer, since he already had his 2 domains at his side, so he had to reject the offer. All Might understood the situation, so he didn't insist so much. The freckled boy and the light blue-haired girl always went out on several dates together. Because they were both happy being by each other's side, NEJIRE always accompanied her boyfriend to visit her deceased father's grave. Izuku always told her how his day had been, and how much he loved the light blue-haired girl who, since they had started dating, never left his side, always showing him how much she loved him. We can see the green-haired boy sitting on the grass of a small meadow under a beautiful cherry tree. He tenderly hugged his girlfriend NEJIRE while they watched the beautiful sunset. NEJIRE, I know I always tell you this, but I love you, Izuku, and I will until the end of my life, love. They both gave each other a passionate kiss under that tree. Izuku is curious. Before I thought that no one could love this demon, but I guess I was wrong, because I finally found the woman I want to be with for the rest of my life. Dad, wherever you are, I hope you are seeing me being happy as you always wanted me to be. Thank you for everything you did for me. Since that day when we saw each other for the first time in that alley, you showed me unparalleled love. Without you I would not be who I am today. Thank you. In the end, my two demons and I were just one demon, yes. We were. A demon who just wanted to be heard.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.